Welcome to Our Life Beginnings and Always. There are various ways you can customize and interact with this game. This tutorial is an overview of how certain features work. You can read the full footage tutorial from the main menu to learn about everything in detail. To start off, the game is divided into 4 time periods called steps. Step 1, childhood. Step 2, adolescence. Step 3, young adult. And step 4, adulthood. Our life is further divided into sets of beginnings that take place during specific periods of time. These are called moments. Moments can be played in any order or skipped entirely. You may, on the next step, whenever you want. You move on to the next step whenever you want by selecting the summary ending. Steps 1 to 3 include 5 moments each, and even more can be unlocked by purchasing DLCs. Some are out now, and other DLCs will be released later on. Step 4 is an epilogue and doesn't include moments. I don't know what I accidentally clicked there, but I must have been saved. A lot happens over the years that go by, especially in regard to the character you play as. You determine nearly everything about the main character: name, appearance, personality, pronouns, interests, skills, their relationship with major characters, and so on. You can decide to change the details as time goes on, with a few exceptions. Your last name, your skin tone, and eye color can't be altered once set. Much of the MC's basic traits are determined on a character creation screen. As the MC grows up, more options become available on this screen. As mentioned, one of the decisions you'll get to make for your character is selecting a name. You can type in any name you like, or you can pick a preset name. Preset options are called voiced names because the name will be voiced aloud by the romantic lead. You'll get to hear him say your name as you play through the story. Only the default name Jamie is included in the base game, however, and hundreds more can be added by getting a free voiced name expansion DLC. The full collection of names is separated out as a DLC because of how large it is. If you're not interested in that feature, you don't need to get it. Each name in the DLC belongs to or was selected by someone who supported this project. On the character creation sheet, there's a cute doll you can decorate to get an idea of what your main character looks like, with the different traits put together. Not all the things you decide about the MC appear on the doll. The script referencing what you've decided for the MC is the main way that those decisions influence the game. Our life has a first-person perspective, so your character doesn't really appear next to other character sprites. You only see the MC as a decorative doll and its special cut-in CG images. And cut-in CGs only appear if certain choices are made. It's possible not to see any during a playthrough. There's also a second type of special MC-based screen, the interest comfort screen. Unless you get DLCs, the game has one love interest, Cove Holden. He grows up with the MC, and the interest comfort screen is crucial for determining how that plays out. Interest level sets how much you like him. There are 4 levels: disinterest, fond, crush. Oh no, the grumpig escaped. Whoops. Crush and love. Love is only available starting in step 3, and if you were at fond or crush in step 2. Comfort determines how you generally think when it comes to him. There are 3 levels: nervous, relaxed, and direct. Your level of interest and comfort will set the type of dynamic your character has with the love interest. What you did in the past will influence the present, and feelings can change over time. You get to pick your interest comfort near the beginning of every step. Comfort can switch between the 3 levels as you please. Your interest level can only stay the same or increase. Your current level of interest will become the new lowest option on the screen in the future. For example, if you decide to be fond in step 1, this interest will not be available on the screen in steps 2 and 3, which will make fond the bottom level option for your relationship. Interest level has an impact when it comes to physically interacting with Cove. While growing up, things are rather simple. But if you get along with one another and have a close relationship, you can choose to touch him, and Cove will occasionally interact with the main character in light-hearted or comforting ways. But starting in step 3, touching can become more romantic or suggestive if you're at crush or love. To make sure things go nicely with that, there will be an extra choice to determine initiative level, and a bonus mini tutorial that goes along with the choice to explain the feature in more detail. Basically, even if you decide you like Cove, the game won't force you to act on those feelings. You can always choose not to get together with him, choose not to accept or give romantic gestures, etc. If you do decide to date Cove though, you can't break up with him later. Interest/comfort gets the... Oops. How do I go back? Oh well. And it's only the main character who is impacted by your decisions. Cove grows, and it isn't only the main character who is impacted by your decisions. Cove grows and changes over the years. How he's treated and what he experiences help shape who he becomes. In step 2 and 3, Cove's personality, appearance, and interests will vary based on what happens in the previous step. It's something of a mystery exactly how your decisions end up changing. You can try to guess as you go along. Okay, I'm gonna skip this because this is a lot of reading and my throat was already sore when I started. And I know there's gonna be reading in the actual game itself because that's what it is. It's like a book, right? So, hold on. I'll be right back. Alright, testing. Perfect. It's working. I am back. I am gonna read it. I got my water bottle so that... Okay, let's keep reading. Or, if you prefer, you can also just design your own ideal Cove directly using the Cove Creator option that pops up at the beginning of steps 2 and 3. Making the choices you want is always more important than making a choice because you feel like you have to in order to get a certain result. When a choice does appear, usually you'll see that hovering the cursor over an option shows a certain color: yellow, blue, or green. The colors aren't related to specific points or effects, they're only there to give a bit of insight on the tone/emotion of the choice, since text alone can potentially be read in more than one way. Blue tends to be casual/straightforward, yellow is more emotive or reactive, and green less certain or uncommitted. Though there are hundreds of options in our life, and not every choice menu falls in line with that pattern. Picking just one color every time doesn't give a gameplay benefit. Only stick to a certain type if that's what you happen to like. Otherwise, switch between them freely. Always pick yellow. Never pick yellow. Pursue romance right from the start. Never romance the love interest. Be disagreeable or amiable. None of them will lead to a bad ending. You're welcome to enjoy the events and shape the story without reservation. And then, if you like, you can play again and try something new. There's only ever more good content to discover. We hope you'll have a nice time with our live. Thank you for playing. Ooh. Okay. Let's have a look at all these faces. We got a chubby face, a pointed face, another face, peach face, square face. I think I'm gonna go with the chubby because it's adorable. Okay, let's look at the hairs. Chubby 1, curled 1, flowy 1, short, medium, smooth, chubby 2, long, lumps, side 1, parted 1, triangle, oh my gosh, so cute, parted 2, wavy, blunt, side 2, spiked, wavy, short, sideburns, strands, bowl cut, braids front, scrapey, braid front, flowy, blunt, strands, medium, scrappy, two-tone. Oh my gosh, it's so cute. Oh my gosh, I think we found a winner. Let's check out these skin tones, shall we? I wonder if there's a two-tone with like a shorter hairstyle though. Because I really do like the green, but I don't know if I like the hair length. Ooh, the colours are cute. Okay, to be fair, this is what my hair may be slightly longer than this, but this is what my hair looks like right now. I didn't realize there was 2 parts to the hair. So my hair is brown. Why am I making it look like me? I don't know. I could make it have green. Alright. What skin should we have? Oh, that's cute. Oh my gosh. Whoa, that's pale. Gosh, what am I gonna call? I'm gonna call them. Oh, we can play with the eye shape too. I can't decide. I'm making slope. Alright, I only got blue eyes. I think they. Oh. Birthmarks. Oh. I love it. Oh, I don't know which one I can more. Why so many scars? Rosy cheeks? No. Freckles. Oh my gosh. Okay, freckles on the list. Hand size. What does that even mean? Chubby hands too? Glasses. I mean, I don't know, am I making this based off me? Because I do wear glasses over here. Let's have a look. What do they look like? I mean, they're rectangle but with a round edge. So, optional. Oh, they're cute. Alright. I don't know. Bumps. Really golly. Catch. Freckles. I mean, I have scars. Oh, done. Haha. Summer in Sunset Berg was a special time of year. Your usually sleepy town began to bustle. It was a popular tourist destination with people coming from all over to enjoy the beach, the weather, and the relaxation of Cape Cod. The smell of the ocean, crisp and salty, hung in the air, bringing 3 whole months of schoolless vacation with it. Alright, I'm just gonna grab my jumper because I am chilly. And now I'm cozy. Or I will soon be cozy. Next. During the summer, your mums didn't like you to wander too far outside of your neighborhood, so you knew the area pretty well. That included the people. Families came and went from Sunset Berg, but the most they stayed and did what your mum called putting down roots. They built businesses, they got to know each other, and they definitely said hello to the nice young kids who waved when passing their stores. Going for a walk around town mostly meant that the familiar, friendly residents waved or asked how your family was, or most often said hello. Let's see, which option should we do? You didn't really get why they always had to say hi. They saw you every day, but you nodded back to them anyway. You ended up saying hi to a lot of different people, since most of the tourists that came and went every summer were the same ones. You were too anxious to say hi back to most of the other residents that greeted you, but they all knew you well enough to expect that. Let's say hi to a lot of different people. You enjoyed learning all about where they were visiting from and hoped to visit those places one day too. But today, there was a man sitting on the curb outside your house. He was sitting with his head in his hands, his whole body slumped over, and you wondered if he was even a real person or a statue that had magically sprung up from the ground overnight. Whoever, or whatever he was, you had never seen him before. One thing about knowing everyone in Sunset Bird was that people who you didn't recognize really stood out. It was rare for tourists to venture into the residential district, as your mum called it. So for you, not knowing who a total stranger was set off a lot of red flags. Your mums had a talk with you and your big sister Lizzie about this kind of situation before. You hadn't exactly been listening at the time. You think it could be okay to talk to new people. They mentioned that some people aren't good to talk to, but other types of people can help you even if you don't know them. And remember that it's okay to run away if you feel uncomfortable. You don't have to worry about being polite then. They mentioned that some people aren't good to talk to, but other types of people can help you even if you don't know them. I don't know. You weren't sure about this man yet. Still, you felt a bit scared knowing that he was blocking the way to your front door, but you were pretty interested. You wanted to know more about what was going on, or whether he was nice or not, you didn't want to be bothered. You were pretty interested. You wanted to know more about what was going on. You slowed down, your eyes remaining fixed on the man. There was a split second where your eyes met, and you knew he was aware he wasn't alone on the street anymore. Hey! You raised your eyebrow at the shout. Did he want something? Is that why he was here? The man stood up and started to make his way toward you. Not wanting to seem too approachable, you folded your arms and stared. Still unsure about him, but willing to be friendly, you offered the stranger a smile. Your whole body was frozen in place as he approached. Not wanting to seem too approachable, you folded your arms and stared. So, do you live around here? What's your name? You looked the man up and down, taking his tan skin and relaxed appearance. At least his clothes were relaxed. The way he was acting wasn't. He had sharks on his shorts and a stingray tattoo, and you wondered if he was obsessed with the ocean or something. While you made your assessment, he looked at you expectantly, waiting for an answer to his question. Yeah, I live here. That's great. He looked happy to hear it, giving you a broad smile. He reached into his pocket and pulled out a clean $20 bill. It crinkled in his hand as he held it up to you. Why do we have a $20 bill? Even more confused than before, you looked back at him. Well, could you do me a favor? Nothing bad. Sorry, I should have... Let me start over. He cleared his throat and stood up straighter. From where you were standing, it just made him look creepier. I have a son. His name is Cove, who's about your age. Cove. That seemed like a strange name for an actual living person to you. You chewed on the inside of his cheek. This guy was definitely obsessed with water. You thought that was pretty cool. He was definitely obsessed with water. He wasn't the only person like that in Sunset Bird. Cove's dad. We moved in across the street, see? He gestured towards a house that had been empty for a year, his watch catching the late afternoon sunlight reflecting off the walls. The day. Sorry, big yawn. The gigantic for sale sign was finally gone. You must be M. Simmer, right? I met your mums earlier, and they told me you were 8, just like him, so... He shook the $20 bill to bring it back to your attention, a hopeful smile tilting his lips at the corners. Can you try to be friends with the boy? Just give it a chance, and you can keep this. He's a good kid. You'll like him.
Do you mind?
But you've got to keep it a secret, okay? It wouldn't be friendly to say his dad sent you. Kind of felt sorry for Cove. This definitely wasn't the normal way kids made friends. You knew that. What do you say? Want to make a deal? You didn't want the money. No thank you, sorry. He deflated enough to notice, but not completely. Are you sure? It won't be so bad, even if just for the summer. That'd be enough. That only made this sound more strange to you. Why does it lasting for the summer matter? When it was clear his initial strategy wasn't going to fly, he tucked the bill into a back pocket and changed the request. I get it. You don't have to. Would you be comfortable with he and I coming for a normal visit? No money involved? You'd have to ask my mums. His smile got bigger again. His eyes crinkled at the sides. Of course. They invited us over earlier, but I'd like to ask you too. Then I guess you can. I'll bring him by tomorrow. I wanted him to meet and greet with the neighbors today, but, well, I don't know where he's gotten off to. He laughed when he said that, but with the way his face looked, he thought he actually wanted to cry. If you see him, can you tell him to come on home? He's got a pink cast and glasses. You can't miss it. I can try. You nodded, not totally certain that you'd find Cove, but willing to look. The man smiled and reached out to pat you on the head, paused before doing so, and then pulled his hand away instead. Your mums are already checking you out for me. Such a thoughtful group you are. Now I better go look, too. Can't put everyone else to work while I keep sitting here. I thought he might come back, and that's not what's important. I have to go. Thanks again, Em, so much. He jogged off down the street without another word. You decided to check the hills behind your house. Step 1. First sight. The chirping of the crickets in the tall grass greeted you, quiet and familiar. From the top of the hill you could see the ocean. As you walked, you listened to the crash of the waves on the shore and the seagulls squawking as they settled down for the night. You always loved the ocean. It was so much fun. Or you loved to hear stories about the sea, about the merfolk and the sea serpents, and you imagined living far beneath the waves. Or you didn't enjoy the beach all that much, especially sand, which got absolutely everywhere. You always loved the ocean. Crazy. Sometimes the sea would join you, the two of you splashing each other in the waves. Those were the best days. You took in a deep breath. You wanted to try to relax and couldn't. You weren't sure what, but something told you that you weren't alone, so you glanced around. There was a boy sitting at the top of one hill, almost completely hidden within the long grass, and white flowers surrounding him. His head was buried in his knees, staring ahead by himself. For whatever reason, probably just that he wasn't paying attention, he hadn't noticed you yet. You watched him a minute longer, feeling a little bit like you'd found a deer in the wild. Though deer didn't have sad frowns, but this new boy did. You wondered what could have upset him. After a few more seconds, you took a step forward, then another, and then he glanced your way. His aquamarine eyes reflected the light of the moon. You stopped, raising a hand to acknowledge him and show you weren't scary. Hi! With a start, he jumped to his feet, his hands balling into fists at his sides. He didn't say anything, just stared at you in a strange way. He's been crying. There were traces of tears on his cheeks and his knees soaking in the hem of his shorts, and his eyes were still shining with a few more. Oh, little Cove. I'm all emotional. How am I emotional already? You'd obviously caught him off guard. His pink cast seemed to glow in the twilight though. When he caught you staring at it, he hid his arm behind his back. Something the man earlier had said stuck out to you. Cove? Eyes wide, he studied you. How do you know that? I met your dad. Oh. So this is your hill? He gestured with his uninjured arm to the patch of grass surrounding you, his face falling at the prospect. I mean, I can leave if it is. You shook your head. While doing so, you also picked at a strand of lint on your leg. What a weird question to ask someone. Oh. He sat back down with a thumb resting his chin on his knees again. Curious about the strange new boy with the odd dad, you sat on the patch of grass next to him. The pure white flowers that covered this hill rocked back and forth gently as the stars twinkled above. The way they dotted the sky made them seem like flowers too. The night wind was cool as it travelled over the ocean and up the hill, chasing away the heat from the afternoon sun. Why are you here? A quiet hiccup escaped Cove as soon as you asked the question. Almost like they never stopped, his tears started up again with a vengeance. My parents, they don't want to live together with me anymore. The tears fell fast and heavy over his flushed cheeks, sticking in his dark lashes. Oh, sweet boy. Oh, I think I might be too late for this, but I'll try. Poker catch. Ooh. Oh, I don't think that works. Let's try again. I don't know why it automatically put a space in between. This poor little Covey. Sorry, got distracted by catching Pokemon. My mum made my dad leave and he took me with him. And now we have a house here and I want to go home. The outburst took you off guard. By the time he was done wailing, Cove's chest was heaving with exhaustion. Poor Cove. He sniffled and removed his glasses, wiping at his eyes with the back of his hand before he put them back on again. I hate this place. I want my real life back. I want my mom. Oh, poor kid. I'm sorry. He slipped his hands underneath his glasses and pressed his fingers against his lids. Cove wound himself up again for another long crying fit. You felt bad for him, being forced to come here with no choice. You couldn't imagine what it'd be like to live with only one of your mums, but it must be pretty hard. But from away off in the distance, you heard your parents. Em!
Cove?
Cove! Kids, where did you go? Cove looked at you, tears still clinging to his cheeks. Don't tell them we're here. I don't want to go back to the house. I want to go home. It will be okay. suddenly to reassure Cove. It's not gonna all be fun, but isn't he your family too? Yeah, I guess. Then you can count on him when you really, really need him. You shot him a grin and pushed yourself to your feet. Slowly, Cove stood up with him, still looking a little reluctant. His dad's voice rang out again. Cove, can you hear me? He looked toward the sound of his dad's voice, silent, then turned away while rubbing his not bandaged arm. Sorry, I still don't want to go. You waited silently with him. Yeah, I get it. You do? Before you could answer, you heard Cove's dad even closer than before. There you are, bud. The trio of parents appeared over the curve of the hill. Instantly, all their eyes landed on you, and they rushed over. Both of your mums were at your side in a split second, faces filled with worry. Em, you're here after all. We had been at the park to check for Cove and then heard what happened earlier when you met the new neighbour. I thought you might have gone off further away. No, we were just sitting in the grass. Why is everybody acting like this is such a big thing? We're okay, don't worry. Cove didn't want to go home just yet. No, we were just sitting in the grass. Thank God you're both fine. Were you two having fun out here? He looked over at Cove, who was wiggling against his dad's tight hug and pushing at his arms. Yeah, I like him. He's good. I think I'm gonna marry him. I think I'm just gonna shrug. He's new here. It was okay. Finally letting go of his squirming, scaling son, Cove's dad turned to the three of you. Thanks very much for finding him. I really don't know this neighborhood. Good thing Em knows the whole area so well. Absolutely. We should be getting home now. It's been a long day for us all. Say goodbye, Cove. Bye. The two of them walked off into the darkness, heading towards the neighborhood. You watched Cove's bright pink cast until it disappeared. Tell you what, we'll have a proper play date tomorrow, okay? Your new friend's dad wanted to bring him to see you and Lizzie. How does that sound? Sure, can I show you my stuff?
Of course.
Of course. Then, okay. Both your mums laughed, the sounds overlapping into a warm, familiar chorus. Mummy put her arm around your shoulder and led you towards the path. Satisfied and more than a little ready to go to bed after your long exciting day, you follow them home. Oh, how do you choose? Go with relaxed. Relaxed Crush, Flounder, really different. Let's go Crush. I love how cute this is. I don't remember keeping the blushy cheeks though. Or is that from the Crush? Okay, makes sense. Okay. Okay. Childlike affection. Okay. Oh no, the sanddial escaped. Oh well, it probably escaped ages ago. I've been busy with the game. Okay. The next morning, you finished your breakfast so fast that you practically inhaled it. Your sister Lizzie had run out earlier to go play, but you'd stayed put. Today, just like your mum had promised, Cove was coming over to hang out. Excited to see your new friend again, Em? Yeah, a lot.
How sweet.
Isn't that just the sweetest thing? I bet the two of them are going to be great playmates.
Okay.
With that said, are you done with your breakfast? Your bowl was entirely empty, so you nodded. Good job. He should be here soon. Cleanup began, and then, on cue, there was a knock. It was hesitant, like the person wasn't sure they were in the right place. Still loud, though. We need to get a more obvious doorbell. I know. Em, could you go get it? You practically leapt out of your chair on the way to the door. Hey Simmer family, thanks for having us. Oh, Simmer family, I love it. Mr. Holden, as your mums have called him, and his son were here. Cove looked different in the bright lighting of the living room, and when he wasn't crying, with his dad standing in front of him and mom and mummy behind you, you and Cove looked at each other. Pleased to see the interest in you boy again, you smiled at Cove. Cove returned it shyly. Let's go play in my room. Okay.
Take care.
Let us know if you need anything, you two. Have fun, kids.
See you.
See you later, son. Play nice. You led him to your room, puffing out your chest a little bit at the sight of your treasures. There were lots of stuffed animals, a cool bed, and a window to look out. It was a great room. You hadn't had anyone to show it to in a while, but you were really proud of it. He leaned in a little closer to one of your drawings on the wall. I like this. Aw, thank you. You're welcome. You smiled at him. You were proud of that particular piece of art, and you were glad that he noticed it. Hi James, how you doing? I'm doing well, thank you. He turned to look around the room a little more, studying the books on your desk and the pictures on the walls. You hoped he liked your room. You had put a lot of effort into making your room as nice as it was. You hoped he didn't say anything bad about it. Then his eyes landed on a tiny box of beach things you collected, tucked away by your door. Oh, I'm glad to hear you're doing well, James. Yeah, this is my first playthrough. I've already got so emotional already, so I don't know. I feel like I'm hooked already, though. I really do. I think I'm hooked. He's a bit cute, this little Cove. Have you played it before? Have you played it before, James? He took a step towards it before hesitating and pointing at it instead. What's that? A hoard of stuff I found on the beach.
Oh.
Do you have any driftwood in there? Dragging the box into the middle of the room, you and Cove flopped down next to it. I think so, yeah. See? You gestured to a piece at the bottom, still covered with specks of sand. Neat. This is a good collection. You got the sense from the tone of his voice that he wasn't just saying it to be nice. Or to be like Shiloh. He actually meant it. Oh right, I almost forgot. Shiloh is going to be here today. Shiloh? Lizzie's friend, or like her #1 fan, I guess. Oh my gosh, you do? You're the voice of Baxter? I haven't actually purchased the DLC. I haven't actually purchased the DLC yet. Actually haven't purchased the DLC yet. But yeah, that's really exciting. I'm glad to have you in the stream. Hi Ivory, welcome on in. Do I have to see him? It should be okay. I mean, he's Lizzie's friend, not mine. But you know. Come on, check out my shells some more. I found this one under a big piece of seaweed that had washed ashore, and you pulled out seashell after seashell, explaining where you'd gotten each one and holding them up against the light. There were big ones, small ones, pink, purple, and orange. Most of them you washed off in the bathroom sink when you brought them home, cleaning off the sand. Oh, you've been here for a while, Ivory. Thanks for watching and enjoying this with me. It's so cute! Oh my gosh, I can't. Ugh. I'm glad you've been here, keeping me company. The collection was so huge and varied that you had lots of funny stories to tell. Apparently fascinated either by the stories or by the shells themselves, Cove listened with what looked like full force of his attention. Like when you almost got pinched by a hermit crab while searching for shells, and after watching him scuttle back into the ocean you found another empty shell that was almost a twin to his home. It was a new experience to be the center of such dedicated focus. That's good that you keep everybody company in the community, James. I've got a Pokemon to catch, sorry. Oh, the horsey. Oh, thanks for the follow, James. Welcome on in. For some reason, it was making your cheeks feel warm. You had never felt like this around someone before. It was kind of weird. Kids, come down to the living room. You could tell the idea was making him unhappy, but Mummy wasn't giving him much of a chance to hang around. Cove hadn't been like this meeting. You guessed it was because he thinks you found each other by accident, not that a parent made it happen. Mr. Holden must be right that telling Cove his dad was a part of that would be a bad idea. Before you knew it, you'd both been escorted downstairs and deposited in the living room, ready for Shiloh's visit. The two of you sat side by side on the floor of your home's entryway. I brought the box of shells. I want to keep looking at them. Great! Bust it open. We can keep looking while we wait for Shiloh. Cove reached in and pulled out a big orange shell. Oh! Like he hadn't spoken aloud yet, he turned to you and held it up, his eyes shining. Well, I hope your appointment goes well. Thanks for stopping in. Have a great day, James. I think this one is the best of them. Oh, I don't know what to do. You can take it! Cove looked at you in surprise, his eyes going wide. Really? Sure, you'll like it a lot, right? Uh-huh, but I don't want to take it from you. It's okay. You get the impression that he was hesitant to accept something because he didn't know you very well. You insisted. No, it's okay for you. You pushed the shell against Cove's chest, willing him to receive the present, but Cove firmly shook his head and kept his arms tightly at his sides. It was a battle you couldn't win, at least not today. Cove was your neighbour now. Maybe you could get it to him another time. The two of you were still sitting on the floor looking through your collection of beach findings when the doorbell finally rang. Cove jumped, startled by the sound. Since the person hadn't knocked, you figured it was probably Shiloh. He knew where to look for that. Lizzie's friend? You nodded, but that didn't seem to make Cove feel better. It was already obvious that Cove didn't hide his feelings well. You could tell what he was thinking right away. This isn't a good idea. You'll be alright, he's here. We can't tell him to leave. He's at our only door, and if you go upstairs, he'll find you. Cove glanced around the room, his eyes wide, and finally paused with his gaze locked onto the back of the house. I can go out the window! He was already walking towards it, scrambling to think of something to say. You stepped forward, and then paused. Please don't get hurt. I'm worried. What if something happens? The distance from the first floor living room window wasn't far, but you could tell it made Cove nervous anyway, and he touched the cast on his arm. The wind had clearly released from his sails. I don't want to break any more bones. I don't think anyone wants to. Yeah, but I don't want to see him. I don't know him. You encouraged him. Hey, if you do have a hard time with him, I'll tell him to leave. Is that okay? Okay. Shiloh poked his head into the living room. It was impossible to know for sure if he'd heard what you'd been saying or not, but you guessed that he had.
Hi.
Hi, and hi, Cove? Oh my gosh, look at all these freckles, he's adorable. Cove shot you an uneasy glance. Hi. I'm Shiloh, it's nice to meet you. Yeah. You have a lot of freckles. Ah, right, I do. What are you guys doing? We're looking at shells.
Can I do it too?
Awesome, can I do it too? Cove shrugged, then looked back at your box of beach findings. What about that one? The plan for the afternoon, at least as far as you were concerned, was to sit and look at beach things some more. You weren't really in the mood to do much of anything else, especially if Cove was having fun. Hey, check out this scallop shell I found. Cool, right? It's a pretty colour, kind of like my cast. The beautiful glittering pink did look a little bit like the wrap around his arm. Pink is a nice colour. Okay. Is it your favourite? Not really. What is? Maybe green or blue. It might be yellow. Oh, those are all cool. I guess. He looks edible. Shiloh like a jello. Looks like I could tap him on the head and he'd jiggle. Jiggly jello. Shiloh the jiggly jello. I like those colours too. Awesome. Both of them smiled. Like usual, it didn't take long for Shiloh to get fidgety. Lizzie was his favourite. Without her around, Shiloh didn't seem to know what to do with himself. And Cove wasn't like your sister. He wasn't that much like you either. Is Lizzie coming back? Don't know. Aww. Where'd she go? I think she's at the beach, probably. Is she playing at her park? Cove's eyes lit up at the mention of the park and he looked towards you. There's a park? Yep, but it's old. Can you show me? I want to go. You started getting up before you had even answered, and Shiloh jumped up beside him in excitement. Really? You do? Too right, Am. The park is fun. love it.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's right at the beach, so there's lots of fun stuff to do, and lots of sand. It has a jungle gym and a bunch of swings. That sounds like it could be cool. So, are you going to find Lizzie? I don't know. I've never really wanted to see her. I just want to check the park out. Adrift without any direction, Shiloh finally turned to you. Okay. He perked up. Both boys wanted to go. It was only fair. After getting permission from your mums, the three of you were ready to head out. It was a short walk to the park. Lizzie had convinced your mums that it was so short, she should always be allowed to walk there by herself. When you found her, she was hanging on the jungle gym, swinging back and forth. Hey, Lizzie! Her face lit up when she saw you, her big brown eyes going wide. Shiloh! Hi! She dropped to the ground and landed with a soft thud in the sand in a split second. Shiloh had abandoned you two and scrambled over to stand by her. You were used to being left out when it was just the three of you, but now Cove was here. It was nice to have someone who stuck with you. Who's that? It's Cove. He's new.
Hi.
I remember. Hi, Cove! Welcome to my park. Nobody ever comes to play here, so this is where we get together. She gestured wildly with your arms as if to present the area to the newcomer. While Lizzie continued talking, you took the chance to kick off your shoes and wiggle your toes through the warm sand. Nice, huh? In this neighborhood, I'm the one who comes up with the ideas. You are?
Uh-huh.
Yeah, I am. Who else could handle the job? Lizzie is the oldest. By a lot. My mum said you're M's age. Yeah. Thought so. I'm still only one in this group with double digits. What about other kids? Other kids? There aren't any. We're the only kids here, and Shiloh is just visiting from another place. Not even tourists really bring their kids here. This is the land of ancients. Be careful that the oldies don't try to steal your youth. Oh. For a second it looked like he might cry again, but something in his eyes shifted and he looked back at Lizzie. What kind of old people? Like mums and dads or grandparents? Grandparents who don't have children have children. They hate kids. Why? We haven't done anything. Only some of them don't like kids. You interjected quickly, hoping Lizzie wouldn't take things too far. Cove sniffled, his forehead creasing with worry. Lizzie was staring Cove down, but Cove wasn't even looking at her anymore. He didn't seem to care that she was there. He went into his own head. Shiloh was the next one to speak, completely unaware of the situation. I met Lizzie and Em in school. You'll see a ton of kids there once summer is over. But I don't want to go to a new school. I don't want summer to end. Shiloh looked down to the dirt. He hasn't had much luck striking up a conversation with her. I like summer vacation a lot too. All the building tension in the air suddenly vanished when Lizzie laughed. At Shiloh's discomfort, at how weird she thought Cove was, at something else entirely you didn't really know, but she laughed, her face scrunching up.
Okay.
Welcome to Sunset Bird, Cove. Take a seat, put up your feet, and get used to it. You offered him a small smile that, at least, looked to reassure him some. For the rest of the summer, Cove was always there. You saw him more often than Shiloh, and on some days, when she was in a bad mood or busy, you even saw him more than Lizzie. He became a staple of your everyday life, the way sun and lunch and the beach were. Looking back on it years later, you would realize that you'd had a tiny crush on him right away, one that had made you want to spend as much time with him as you did. Of course, that was only the start of things. What's fireflies? Oh, firefly scented. I will start with shopping. Come back before it gets dark. Alright, sport? The familiar voice drifted across the street, drew your attention away from the snail you'd been watching inch slowly across the pavement. Cove waited in front of his dad, pushing his green hair back off his face, from where the breeze was blowing it over his glasses. He looked to be paying only a mild amount of attention, as he was being handed a few slips of green paper. It reminded you of when you first met Mr. Holden, although he's probably not paying Cove to be friends with himself. Cove's dad seemed to feel your gaze somehow, or maybe you made a noise, because a second later his eyes were on you, and he waved you over with a smile. He looked happy to see you, but you still felt a little weird getting caught. You've got to learn how to be more sneaky. You brushed your hands together to free them of sand, then jogged over to join them too, smiling at Cove first, and then his dad. In turn, Cove shuffled his feet in place as you got closer. Hi!
How's it going?
Good to see you again. What excitement are you up to today, Em? Taking a walk. I found a pretty cool snail across the road. There's lots of snails around here. Mr. Holden grinned at you kindly. Are you finished answering the question? After you finished answering the question, Mr. Holden's attention returned to Cove, who was preoccupied with folding the bills he had into a tiny rectangle. Sounds fun, you know. Cove was about to hit the stores by the beach.
Yeah.
Why don't you? I don't know what it said. Yeah, you can come. I think guessing it said, why don't you join him? You immediately grinned at the idea. You hadn't been sure if you'd see Cove today, and now he was inviting you somewhere. This date couldn't get much better. Great, I'm sure you guys will have lots of fun. Mr. Holden reached into his pocket and pulled out a leather wallet filled with money. You found it odd, since your mums only ever seemed to have cards in theirs. Here! He leaned in to pass a crisp 10 to Cove, giving him a wink and a whisper. Get something for your friend too. Sure.
Good kid.
That's my boy. Cove's dad ruffled his son's hair as he was straightening back up the bill in his hand, still held out towards the green-haired boy. Take care. Cove accepted the bill after a second and slipped it into his pocket. Then with one last nod to his dad, he turned and started walking. You followed after him, intrigued at the possibilities this outing might bring. Cove strayed towards the gentle tide creeping up the sand, and you fell into place beside him. It was a nice day. The sun was shining, and there weren't many clouds in the sky, though the wind coming off the ocean kept it from being too hot. Hold on, I'll be right back. I need to go to the bathroom. Oh, nice, Ivory, you got a Piplup! What a cool starter Pokemon. The old gem escaped though. Boo. Yay, Piplup! super cute. Right. I don't remember if I read this bit or not, so I'm going to just read it again. It was a nice day. The sun was shining. There weren't many clouds in the sky, though the wind coming off the ocean kept it from being too hot. You took in a deep breath, enjoying the scent of salt and ocean air. When you looked at Cove, he was dragging his feet through the sand a little, and you slowed down to wait for him. His eyes searched the ground intently. Are you looking for shells? Cove startled a little at the sound of your voice and mumbled a sort of. If you see any, you can let me know. You could manage that. You dropped your view to the sand, walking carefully so you didn't step on any. You were good at finding shells. You had a lot of them at home and always found new ones whenever you visited the beach. Excuse me. The comforting sound of the waves filled the silence with pleasant white noise, and you played a little game with yourself as you walked along, getting as close to the water as possible without getting wet. Do you not know much about Pokemon, Ivory? It resulted in you having to run up the sand quickly when a wave rushed in more than a few times, and although Cove threw a few glances your way, he didn't say a word. What did you want to go to the shops for? I need a new sand pail. Yeah? What happened to your old one? Cove narrowed his eyes, seeming to think deeply for a second.
Whoa.
It disappeared. What? Really? Cove ducked his head down, lacing his fingers behind his back. It didn't seem like he was going to continue, so you nudged his arm. How did that happen? Well, Cove opened his mouth and shut it again, considering. I took it to the beach one day. Uh-huh. When I got home, it wasn't anywhere. So you left it there? Nope. It wasn't at the beach when I went back. Then you lost it. It disappeared.
So...
What about you? What do you do out here? I like building sandcastles. Last summer, Lizzie and I built one that was as tall as me, and sometimes they have sandcastle building competitions down by the boardwalk. Cool, I bet you could win. You smiled at Cove. Maybe the two of you would build one together one day. Once you reached the shopping area, the noise level grew exponentially. No longer just waves and footsteps, but the chatter of people enjoying the lovely summer day. I'm gonna have to turn the music down a bit because it's not really easy to read with this kind of music. The music before was a lot more relaxing. The call of birds trying to find bits of food left behind, and lots of salespeople trying to get attention. You sniffed the air as you walked beside Cove. You could still smell the ocean, but there were other scents now too. Pizza, pretzels, hot donuts. It's alright. There was a lot going on, but it beat staying at home and doing nothing at all then. You were sure that you and Cove could find something to fill the day if you looked around a bit. Cove was glancing from one side of the street to the other with a look in his aquiline eyes that you couldn't quite work out. What's that? Cove pointed to a large crowd of people gathered near a few tables with large, colourful umbrellas blooming from their middles. You couldn't see past the adults who were blocking the way, but you knew that there must be something worth seeing. Without another word, the two of you hurried over to see what all the commotion was about. Feast your eyes on the amazing Alexander! In the centre of the crowd there was a man with a tall hat and a funny green coat that had 3 long tails. There was a little table next to him with a cloth hanging over it that read, "The Amazing Alexander," in glittery golden script. Why tell people his name if it's already on a sign? Cove hummed with understanding, and then turned to walk away just as the Amazing Alexander began shuffling a deck of cards. Maybe we could stay and watch. Cove glanced back at the man. He then briefly lifted his arms up off his sides before returning them to place. You grinned, waving for him to follow you as you raced back to the stand in the crowd. With that, it began. The magic man pulled one card out of the deck, showing it to the curious onlookers. It was a 4 of diamonds. Watch closely. You did, squeezing through a few of the adult onlookers to get a better view. Suddenly, the man snapped his fingers. The card just disappeared. Whoa! The Amazing Alexander, who had earned his title, turned his head and looked directly at you. He reached out with a kind smile. What's that? What's this behind your ear? Nothing? It was true. You didn't keep anything there. He smelled like popcorn and candy when he stepped closer, and you wrinkled your nose in confusion as you watched him. You felt a tug, and then he pulled a 4 of diamonds out from behind your ear. What? You knew that it couldn't really have come from your ear, but you still didn't get how he'd done it. There was a light applause from the crowd, and the man gave a deep bow. This is for you. The magician plucked a pair of balloons from a clump of them tied down to his table. Both were in the shape of a dolphin instead of being a normal circle. And one for your friend too. Thank you for being my assistant. Wow! Now you were really grateful he chose you. After that, he went to someone else in the crowd. Pick a card, any card. My uncle does that every time he visits. Not the balloons, the stuff with the cards. Cove spoke plainly while reaching over to take the dolphin that had been designated for him. You wondered if Cove's whole family was magic. Oh, if so, he was lucky. The crowd started to clear some, and you noticed to the side there was a whole rack of brightly coloured kaleidoscopes on display. Picked up a Rubik's Cube. Ooh, these are cool. Will you hold my balloon while I look at this? Cove nodded, taking a balloon and holding it in the same hand as his own, so you could get a good grip on the cube. He stood next to you and watched as you attempted to match the coloured rows. You managed to line up all the green squares on one side of the cube, but there were still 5 more sides to go. Deciding it was something that you shouldn't continue another time. You should continue another time. You set the cube back on the rack and took the balloon from Cove and moved to the other side of the wall. At the storm, he went under the awning, careful of his own floating dolphin, and you joined him. Are you having fun? Yeah. You returned his smile, happy to hear it. When Cove moved towards some stalls nearby, you followed beside him. Oh, look how cute they are. The crabs and the sharks and the turtles. While Cove looked at sand pails, you were drawn to a table with colourful keychains laid out in it. They were sewn in shapes of the shape of sea creatures, and there was a plaque that read "Handmade" standing proudly in front. Sorry, goodness me. There were lots of different types. You saw a dolphin, a shark, a crab, a turtle. Oh, they're dolphins, not sharks. Oh, the sharks are there too. Ooh, the crab. Links back to the story from before. Your hand stopped on the crab, claws raised, and tiny smile on its face. It had big eyes and little legs, and the crab was smooth when you picked it up. You had seen a few crabs on the beach before, but they usually scuttled away before you got a chance to look at them closely. You liked the idea of having a crab all of your very own, even if it was just a soft animal. You were instantly enamored. Checking the price though, your heart fell. $6. You didn't know much about money, but you thought that was a lot to spend on one thing. You rarely had more than a $5 bill to your name. Is that what you want? Huh? Oh, it's $6. I didn't bring any money.
Alright.
It's fine. Really? Really? Cove took the keychain from your hands, and that was that. He was holding a small yellow bucket for himself too. It's cool. You should get it. You smiled, pleased to have things work out. It was nice of Cove's dad to let Cove buy something for you too. You had to remember to thank him next time you saw him. After Cove paid, the two of you stepped out of the store side by side, your balloon dolphins knocking together and spiraling around the air. You watched Cove hold up his new pail to his face, examining it thoroughly. Hey Cove! Yeah? Your dad gives out money a lot, huh? From what you've seen, that happens a lot with Mr. Holden. You've never met anyone else who shares dollar bills with people all the time. Cove's brow furrowed in confusion.
Maybe.
I don't know. Maybe. For a second you thought about mentioning the way you and his father met, but decided against it. That was meant to be a secret, and you felt like your feelings might have been hurt if your parents were offering to pay people to be your friend. Cove looked further down the street where different food carts were lined up. I don't think you should keep keeping this from him, though. It wasn't like it was... I don't know. It's not like we accepted the money. He rested his non-cast arm over his stomach, and just as he did, yours let out a light growl. You hadn't eaten since breakfast, and after all this wandering around, you were definitely ready for some lunch. Let's get some food. Yeah. You two wandered around a short while, looking at all the delicacies that were available. Ooh, Pokemon. Pokecatch. It's a Bonsley. Everything looked delicious, and as the different smells, both sweet and salty, wafted over you, your stomach growled even louder. After passing up hot dogs, snow cones, ice cream and pizza, you both agreed on pretzels. Cove got something sweet and cinnamon, and you... Oh, the cinnamon one does sound good. Sorry, my phone's running out of battery, so I'm just gonna plug it in. I think I'm gonna get the same. You licked your lips hungrily as the vendor handed you a pretzel over, ready to take a big bite. Your mums didn't like you to eat too much sugar, but this was a special occasion. The little cup of icing looked too delicious to pass on. You found an empty table close enough to the beach that the grit of the sand made terrible noises when you dragged the chairs out to sit down. These balloons are gonna make it hard to eat. Cove placed his bucket on the table as he stared at his still balled up hand that was wrapped around the string. You opened your mouth to agree before an idea hit you. I know! After carefully placing your pretzel somewhere it wouldn't get sandy, you tugged the dolphin balloon out of Cove's hand and tied it in a delicate bow around his wrist. Oh! Cove bounced his arm up and down in place, testing the stability of your knot, and after watching his balloon jostle around but remain attached, he smiled satisfied. Can you do it for me? He repeated the ritual. Cove struggled somewhat with the cast restricting his fingers on one hand and a string already tangled around the other. But the action made you feel strangely happy. You couldn't look him in the eyes.
Okay.
Got it! The two of you spent a moment admiring your handiwork, both hands now free to allow easy munching on your pretzels. You bit into the doughy treat, savouring the taste on your tongue with a smile as you looked out over the ocean. After a time, you finished your pretzel. You were done before Cove, and it was boring. Oh, nice! You caught it! Well done, Ivory. After a time... Yeah, I read that. You pulled on the string of your balloon to bring it down to your level. Then you held the dolphin in your hands, manipulating it to make it look like it was jumping through the air. If you turned to face towards the beach, it almost looked like it was swimming in the waves like a real dolphin. A laugh came from your side. When you glanced back at Cove, he had left the remaining part of his pretzel on the wrapper and was gripping his dolphin too. Mine's name is Merryweather. He's the prince of the dolphins. He wears a crown made of seaweed and all of his friends are merfolk. Every now and then, he'll make friends with a kid and let them ride on his back. You sighed, wishing you could meet a real dolphin called Merryweather. What's yours? Cove considered the question, placing a balloon against the table and resting his free arm across it in contemplation. It's... With a loud pop, the dolphin exploded into ribbons. Oh no! Oh no! For a second, all Cove did was gape in shock like you. Then his cheeks puffed up, squinting his eyes. You saw tears start to glisten. It... You offered to give Cove your balloon. Don't cry! You quickly pulled the knot around your wrist loose and passed your balloon over to Cove. It wasn't the same colour, but you hoped Cove would accept it anyway. Here, you can have this one. Cove sniffled, a lone tear running down his cheek. No, I don't want to take yours from you. Then we're sharing. It's your turn to hold it. Really? Yeah, it's okay. Cove accepted the balloon delicately, probably to make sure this one didn't pop like the other. Thanks, Sam. Seeing him like that felt much better than keeping the dolphin for yourself. The passing of Cove's balloon was the last major event of your adventure. In the end, the two of you headed back later that afternoon. You separated on the beach, and while Cove went straight home with his brand new sand pail in hand, you decided to sit for a while. You watched the waves and the sunset, fiddling with your new keychain. Another summer day was drawing to a close. It had been great going around with Cove. You hoped to do it again. But next time you wish nothing would happen to make him cry. Look at all the DLC ones. One sweltering summer day, you were in your living room with Cove, listening to the sounds of the birds chattering outside the window while you lay across the rug on the floor. Cove's dad had dropped him off earlier, and your mums had left the two of you, along with Lizzie, to play amongst yourselves. It had been too hot to go outside in the afternoon, at least according to Mummy. So your sister was starting to get impatient, waiting for her golf class that evening. The three of you had trouble finding something fun to do. The beach and the playground were off limits, and you felt that it was too warm for anything like playing with your fuzzy toy animals. Then suddenly a light came to Lizzie's big brown eyes, and her smile spread wide across her face. Having an idea gave her a new wave of energy. Since we're stuck inside, we should be adults. They don't play outdoors anyways. They're always inside and telling everybody they're too busy to play.
Why?
Why?
Duh.
I said why, and it'll be fun. Duh. What do they do inside that we don't, besides use the phone a lot? Excluding a small huff, Lizzie decides to ignore Cove.
What do you think?
Em, what do you think? Do you want to? I bet we could come up with something else. But that's what I'm going to do, and it's not as fun when I play pretend adults by myself. Do you do that a lot? What's it to you? Looking at Lizzie, it seemed Cove felt he could understand and where she was coming from, and he sighed. Do you really want to play, Em? It was clear he wanted some way out, but still felt guilty about it. I'll try it, but it sounds boring. It's not gonna be, I guarantee. Lizzie seems more determined than ever, and you could only sigh. Satisfied that... Oh, whoops. Why do I keep doing that? After a few seconds, she clapped her hands together, beamed, apparently having settled on something without asking either of you.
Okay.
Okay, I'm going to be a professional golfer. Em, you and Cove can be a beach volleyball player, a gymnast, or a tennis player. Why can't we pick anything we want? Because I have a fun idea, that's why. And we have to play sports as adults? Yeah, but there's other kinds of sports too.
Right?
It isn't the same. What do you think, Em? Don't those choices sound super cool? You want to be that, huh? Isn't there anything else we can be? Lizzie stomped her foot on the ground. No, come on. Just decide already. Knowing Lizzie wouldn't let this go anytime soon, you sighed. Cove was not impressed with Lizzie's attitude, though he didn't bother talking more about it for now. He thought over the list of possibilities: beach volleyball, gymnastics, or tennis. Out of all of them, you prefer to play tennis. You remembered Mummy had a couple of old tennis rackets lying around somewhere, but you forgot where you had seen them last. You could check the attic for them, although Lizzie wouldn't let you run off and do that now that she had you here. Yes, that was clearly the top option. Okay, I'm going to be a tennis player.
All right.
How about you, Cove? I'll be a tennis player with them. Lizzie threw her hands in the air, making an annoyed sound. You guys can't be the same thing. That's not how it works. You didn't say that. The rule was picking from the list. You can't keep adding more. Lizzie looked at the two of you, then shook her head, resigned to losing this battle, but not the war. Fine, you're both tennis players, but you're on the same team because there's only one. Lizzie's ponytail bobbed when she proudly stretched her arms wide. The Olympic team! What? We're Olympic athletes who just competed in the Olympics. Cove didn't seem all that impressed with the announcement. He made a face and adjusted the glasses on his nose. That's really specific.
Rude.
That's what makes it fun. Anyway, Lizzie marched back and forth in front of both of you, getting lost in her own imagination. I won all gold medals and people are calling me the next Mickey Wright. Who's that? Lizzie stopped on the spot and turned on him, her brown eyes shining with impatience. It doesn't matter if you know who she is. It's a golf thing. You guys won medals too. Your team placed at silver. It's more real if we're not all first place. I'm okay with that. You shrug your shoulders, agreeing with Lizzie. A silver medal was still really good in the Olympics. I'm not. Cove folded his arms across his chest, apparently not as happy as you were with the decision.
Sorry.
Lots of people lose the Olympics. Them's the breaks. Then you're the one who did, not me. Lizzie looked taken aback by Cove's declaration, as though the thought of her losing was completely absurd. No way! It wouldn't make sense. I'm already practicing my golf game. She took a golfing stance to make her point, pretending to swing her club and hit an invisible ball. So what kind of house do you want to live in? Cove hadn't changed his mind about winning, but thinking about where he'd live as an adult appealed to him, apparently because he looked back at Lizzie with some of the anger fading. I'm going to live on the beach. Lizzie made a face at him, poking out her tongue. Well, that's kind of boring. We already have that. No, not like the normal houses here with a street on it, right on the sand by the water. Just like that, all the tension was back. You hadn't even had a chance to choose where you wanted to live. That's not very fun or smart, Cove. You can't live on a beach of sand shells. But I want to, and I will. Cove narrowed his eyes at Lizzie, even though she stood half a head taller than him. You didn't give out a list of things to pick from this time, so I'm picking that. Why are we even playing pretend if we can't even imagine anything? Jeez, well, I'm gonna live in a mansion far away from here, far away from you. One with an indoor pool and a place to practice my award-winning golfing.
It's not fair.
How come you were yelling about mine when your idea is even more impossible? Lizzie's face flushed red, her hands balling into fists at her sides. It's not impossible, and it's better than yours. Disagreements always seemed to crop up when the two of them were together, and you always felt like you were stuck in the middle. But when it came to the topic at hand this time, you thought, being on the beach was cooler. Who wouldn't want to live on the beach? It'd be really great. You could have windows made from driftwood and seashell wind chimes. Pokemon. It's a Cascoon this time. Catch. Ugh. Somehow you agreeing with him made Cove look nervous. He tried to ignore it by continuing his debate with Lizzie. You can swim whenever you want if you live on the beach. We can still swim anytime we want from where we live now. Being a little closer doesn't mean anything. Says you. The two of them scowled at each other. You're being so unreasonable. You... I don't get what you want. This game doesn't even make any sense. It does. You have to be realistic. I said that. But you're not. You had no idea what to do to make them stop at this point. It seemed like the two of them would just keep working each other up as long as they could. Nothing you said so far had kept them from being mad. Thankfully, like a greeting card angel, Mom walked into the room. Lizzie rushed to her, hanging onto the hem of her skirt and poking at her to tug on Cove. Lizzie! Em! It's time to get ready to go! Sorry you have to leave already, Cove. Then Mummy said she'll walk you home so you won't be left in the cold. Cove was still glaring at Lizzie, his face flushed red with anger. I can go by myself. But bye, Em. There was still a harsh edge to the brief farewell, but he knew it wasn't you he was mad at. The Cascoon got away. Without giving Mum a chance to stop him, Cove stood up and stalked out the room, shoulders drawn tightly. Okay. Worried, Mum turned to look down at you and Lizzie. You two were playing nice with our new friend, weren't you? You told the truth. We were playing pretend and things got intense. They were like cats and dogs. Your sister's jaw dropped, looking betrayed, as Mum put both hands on her hips. Elizabeth! I told you to be kind to him. He's having a hard time right now. Lizzie's mouth closed back up, replaced by a tiny frown. I know, I tried, but he was...
That's enough.
No buts. We both know you can show someone a great time when you put your mind to it. We're going to apologize to Cove and his dad over the phone when he gets home from work tonight. Lizzie hung her head, dragging a foot across the ground in front of her. Okay, Mum. Good girl. You caught pieces of Lizzie sulking to herself about how it was his fault too, but it was over. Ah, right, we better get a move
Let's
on.
go.
Let's go, kids. Nolani, where did you leave the car keys? Mum hustled you all out the door, and you noticed during the car ride to golf practice that Lizzie was quieter than usual. She was usually the first one to request which music to listen to in the car, but she didn't say anything. Your parents noticed she wasn't in the mood to be bothered. They gave her space, and Mummy just asked you what you'd like to listen to. You chose a song you knew Lizzie liked. Maybe that would cheer her up. You were happy to see it brightened her up right away, and she started singing along with you. Soon enough, her bad mood was a thing of the past. When the car ride was over and you spent the twilight hour watching Lizzie hit things with other girls her age, you didn't know much about golf, but you could tell that she really liked it, so you sat with your mums and tried to puzzle it out. It was nice sitting outside after being cooped up in the house all day, and you stretched out your legs to let the last few minutes of sun warm your skin. When the sun was finally out of sight, dipping behind the horizon, you all got ready to leave. Instead of going straight home, your mums took the family out to dinner. You went to a restaurant you had all been going to ever since you could remember. The whole afternoon had been a bunch of shouting you hadn't been able to stop, but you could kind of tell that all this helped Lizzie be less angry. The car ride home was quiet, with only the radio providing escape from the silence. Lizzie had been in better spirits now, but the closer you got to your neighborhood, the more she wiggled in the seat and found out the window. She knew what was coming when you all got home. Clearly, she was dreading it. Soon enough, Mum was turning onto the street, then reversing into the driveway. When she cut the ignition, it was dead silent. No one spoke, only unbuckled their seatbelts and opened the doors. Lizzie was the last one out. Once everybody was inside and done taking off their shoes, she propped her hands on her hips.
So,
Now then, Mr. Holden's car is in his driveway, so he should be back from work. That's good news, isn't it, Elizabeth? You and Cove can hash things out before the day's done. Lizzie didn't complain or put up a fight. Her head ducked so she didn't have to meet anyone's eyes. She nodded once. Good, let's move this to the kitchen. Mum went over to the house phone, the rest of you following behind her. Mummy put a gentle hand on Lizzie's shoulder as they walked side by side. You watched them from the back. This was only happening because you told on Lizzie. You felt a little guilty, like you had betrayed your sister. You could still remember the look on Lizzie's face. There was no doubt that she felt that way about it. You and your sister didn't always get along, but you cared about each other. This wouldn't change that, you thought. The four of you stood around the kitchen in a lopsided square. All eyes were on Lizzie, who kept her gaze on her feet. You remember the number for Cove's house, don't you, honey? Lizzie jerked her head in another nod. Sullen. Without further prompting, she stepped forward and she began to dial. Mum reached over and pressed a button on the base. Suddenly you could hear the phone ringing. She turned on the speaker. The phone rang a couple times and stopped. Mr. Holden's warm voice came. Mr. Holden's warm voice came through the other end. Evening, Holden residence. Lizzie looked over at Mummy, unsure. She nodded encouragingly. Hi, Mr. Holden. It's Lizzie. Can I talk to Cove?
Absolutely.
Lizzie Simmer? What a surprise. But of course you can, say hey to the boy. He sounded cheery as usual, though definitely meant it when he said it was a surprise. He thought hard, and he was sure that your sister had never called Cove's house before. Mum spoke up before Mr. Holden or Lizzie could say anything more. Her arms were crossed over her chest. Her lips pursed. Hi, Cliff, Nolani, Em and I are here too. Good evening. We're sorry to bother you so late. You spoke up to... Hi, Mr. Holden. The gang's all here, huh? Is something the matter? Gosh, what is with me? His voice grew a bit concerned, and Mummy was quick to reassure him. No, well, yes, but it's going to be okay. Lizzie and Cove got into a bit of a fight today. We were hoping that the two of them could talk and make up. Is this a good time for you and Cove?
What?
A fight? Cove didn't tell me anything about that when I came home. It does explain the funk he's been in tonight, though. He chuckled lightly despite that. It didn't seem like he really thought it was funny. Anyway, it's good you didn't catch us at a bad time. I'll go grab him for you. There was some shuffling on the other end. He must not have gone far because you could still hear him calling out. Cove, there's someone on the phone for you. After a beat of silence, there was more muffled talking from Cove's dad. Come on, bud. Lizzie called just so she could talk to you.
Are you sure?
Em's on the other end listening too. Don't you want to say hi? It took a bit of back and forth, though the conversation seemed one-sided since you couldn't hear Cove properly. Eventually, Cove took the phone from his dad.
Hi.
Hello? Hey, it's Lizzie. Yeah, I know. Dad told me. Cove's tone was defensive. Lizzie turned to Mum, scowling. One stern look from her, though, and Lizzie turned away.
Sorry.
I just called to say I'm sorry for not playing nice with you today. I won't do it again. Lizzie's eyes were downcast, her voice low. You could tell she felt uncomfortable apologizing to Cove in front of everyone. She was still being genuine about feeling bad, though. Cove must have realized that too, because he sighed quietly. I want gold, and I think Em should win too. Really? You thought you were worth gold? Lizzie was momentarily stunned, silent by the demand. She probably forgot that it had even happened already. Alright, we all win the gold. Okay, I guess I'm sorry too. A sense of relief washed over everyone at his acceptance of the apology. Mum uncrossed her arms while Mummy's shoulders relaxed. Lizzie's eyebrows raised up. He wondered if she thought that he'd refuse her apology. Dad, can I get off the phone now? You couldn't see him, but it was obvious that Cove felt awkward about the situation. He had come off uncomfortable the entire time, really.
Yeah.
Yeah, you can go back to your room if you want. Be sure to say goodbye first, though. Bye, Lizzie. Bye.
Bye.
Bye, Em. He perked up at the mention of your name. You smiled, even if he couldn't see it. Bye, Cove. With that, Cove must have handed the phone to his dad and left since Mr. Holden spoke up.
That's a relief.
All's well that ends well, as they say. Thanks for arranging this. I'm sure he appreciates it. As Mum replied, Lizzie tugged at Mummy's hand to catch her attention. Can I go now too?
Good job.
Sure, sweetie. Thank you very much for apologizing to Cove. Mum flashed a brief smile at Lizzie and nodded her agreement. Given permission to leave, Lizzie scurried off towards the stairs. She seemed to be feeling much better with the incident behind her. Mum and Mummy returned to the phone, taking it off the speaker. They continued talking to Mr. Holden. You couldn't tell what about. glad that that was the end of it all. Lizzie and Cove might not get along and probably still won't, but they weren't mad at each other anymore. Mum and Mummy weren't upset either. Everything was finally back to normal. With that, though, you retreated to your own room with a spring in your step. It was another scorching summer day, the kind where no sooner had you finished a cup of water, you were already filling it up again. Everyone else had something on, so that afternoon it was just you and Shiloh. This didn't happen much, especially since Cope had arrived. Without Lizzie around, Shiloh looked to you for all the answers. It made you feel nothing really. Shiloh went along with whatever you wanted, so he wasn't a bother, but he also wasn't that much fun. You drained yet another drink and found it in the empty vessel. Your thirst was gone, but you still craved something icy cold and refreshing. Something sweet, something like a popsicle. You wanted something fruity. There was nothing like that to be found at home. You knew that without needing to look. Your mums didn't keep sweets in the house. Outside there was plenty of places where such goodies could be obtained, but they were shops and demanded payment in exchange for their products. You voiced your predicament out loud. I want a popsicle. Shiloh, who had been draped over the sofa, perked up.
Yeah.
That sounds good. We don't have anything like that in the house, and I don't have any money. Oh, let me check if I have any. Shiloh rummaged in his backpack and proudly produced an assortment of coins plus one stray button. You set the button aside and counted the coins in neat piles. Just over $1. You announced that to Shiloh. He had almost suddenly come to the same conclusion, but he'd been watching you expectantly. It's a start. Shiloh beamed at you. You'll need to find some more. Okay. The two of you lifted couch cushions, stuck tiny hands down deep crevices in the sofa and under furniture, and scoured the back of the drawers. Most of what you found was useless, or gross. Bent paper clips, fluffy wisps of dust, or sandy crumbs. But every so often, one of you would strike silver or bronze and add it to the growing pile of coins. Dusty and disheveled from checking every room and squinting into every tiny nook until you finished pulling your finds. Shiloh held his breath as he counted the coins once again. $2.53 and 2 buttons. You didn't know what the second button had decided to join a party, but you were too pleased with your successful haul to throw it out. Is that enough? He figured he knew the answer without looking at you for confirmation, but the thrill of your success and the reward that would follow cancelled out any other feelings you might have had about that. Yeah, you can now afford something in the shops, just one thing, but that was infinitely better than none. Charlotte clapped his hand. Yay! The two of you dashed outside. The promise of sugar buoyed you on to your destination, where breathless but happy you stared at the overwhelming number of options. You knew that what you wanted, but it wasn't just you who had contributed the funds to get this treat. He seemed to notice you pause. Aren't you getting a popsicle? Shiloh asked as though he was entirely separate from the decision rather than someone with a stake in the outcome. Do you mind? Shiloh cocked his head to the side. It was your idea. You should choose. You tried to get something Brett wanted anyway. It wasn't fair for you to be the only one to decide when he'd been a main factor in making this happen. Some of the money came directly from his backpack. What do you think? What do you like? All of them. They're so good. You pressed further. But what do you really like? Popsicles or ice cream? Which is your favorite? Oh, it's so hard to pick. I don't know. Frustrated, you cut to the heart of the matter. You want me to choose? Yeah. And that was that. You got the dessert you wanted originally. hoped Charlie wouldn't actually like it. Finally, the reward for all your hard work was in your hands. You sucked on the fruity popsicle you bought. The ice cream cooled you down perfectly, and the zesty flavor was refreshing. You held it out to Shiloh so he could take a turn, and he shook
You
his
can
head.
finish it.
You can finish it. He didn't want any? After everything he did to help? Get it? That was weird. You hesitated.
It's okay.
It's okay, Em. You want it more than I do, and I'm really happy that we got to play together already. You finish it. Well, it wasn't worth arguing further. The frozen fruit was being lured away by the sun and starting to trickle dangerously towards your fingers. If you waited much longer, neither of you would be getting anything to eat. The two of you began to head back home as you waited. You offered the treat once more to Charlotte, but he refused again. You walked side by side on the shore in silence, but your thoughts kept drifting to the boy beside you. Why didn't he speak up for himself? It was almost as if Shiloh didn't know how to say what he felt or was too afraid to. Oh, I miss one popcorn. Are we friends? Charlotte opened his eyes wide, seemingly caught off guard by the blunt question. Yeah, I think so. He says that, but friends should be able to talk to each other without being scared. Charlotte wouldn't do that. Were you even really friends at all? He rubbed his hands together nervously over your non
I'm sorry.
I'm sorry. You weren't sure how sorry you could be without knowing what he's even apologizing for, but you shook your head. You didn't do anything. It was true. Shiloh had done something mean. He'd gone out of his way to make you happy. That didn't seem like it should be a bad thing, yet it bothered you. I just don't know if you like me. It's like it doesn't matter what I do, you're gonna act the same. I could be anybody and you wouldn't care. No, I like you. I really, really like you, Em. I want to be friends. Okay. You smiled hesitantly at him and his fidgeting ceased. Even though you weren't sure if you believed him, this was only making things worse. You decided that maybe there were all types of friends. If Shiloh wasn't able to do things differently, this would have to be alright. Shiloh made you unsure about setting a label on the experience of spending an afternoon with just him. There had been good times and there had been confusing ones. You were positive of one thing at least. The treat was delicious, and that was nice. The sun was low on the horizon as you returned to your neighborhood. There you spotted two very familiar figures up ahead, Lizzie and Cove. You opened your mouth to make your presence known to them just as you saw tears on Cove's face. You walked straight over to Shiloh at your heels. Once there, you carefully asked about what happened. Without a time machine, the only way you were going to find out was by asking. Lizzie might have done something, but she could have been in the wrong place at the wrong time, or even come to Cove's aid. You wanted to hear the story. Cove, what happened? I got yelled at. He took a deep breath, a big steadying breath. Some grandparents got mad at me. Oh, sorry. Lizzie jerked her head in the direction of a nearby house. Your heart sunk. You knew exactly what happened. Every year, the same mean old couple rented out the condo for the summer. You, Lizzie, and Shiloh knew to stay away from them, but Cove couldn't have known. They're like that with everyone. Even your mum struggled to find anything nice to say about them, but the elderly pair particularly took offense to kids. It didn't matter if they were really nice like Cove. Yeah, Lizzie said. Lizzie drew herself up at that. She looked pointedly in your direction. Uh-huh. I was helping. That's cool. Is there anything I can do? No, I'm just gonna stay away. Or you could teach them a lesson. There was a devilish glint in her eyes. Oh dear. What? You should ding-dong ditch them. Go ring the doorbell and run. It'll be great because they're so slow. They'll never catch you. That's dumb. I don't want to go near them ever
We're
again.
just saying that.
You're saying that because you're a chicken. Cove glared, but didn't take the bait. Lizzie turned to you. You're not a chicken, are you? Yeah, cluck cluck. She can't tease you about being a chicken if you are in fact a chicken. Hunched over, you folded your arms to form wings and bat them up and down. Bark, 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 bark! For once your sister seemed at a loss, but it didn't take long for her to regain her usual confidence. So you admit it, you continue to flap your arm wings as you circle your sister, clucking all the while. Bark, bark, bark! There's no shame in a chicken being a chicken. Yeah, you're a chicken. Things were not going the way Lizzie expected. She fought against the laugh and looked for a way to restore her serious authority. You and Cove are both little chickens. Cove folded his arms, though the one with the cast one and was tightly tucked down, and joined you in cheeping around. It was hard to cluck through the giggles that rose up when you saw him imitating a chicken, but you still both gave a first-class performance. The door to the old couple's condo flung open to reveal one of the culprits behind Cove's tears. You froze, wing raised. Can't you let anyone have a bit of peace and quiet? He must not be a fan of theatre or farm animals, as well as kids. That was the only explanation for his outburst, which was far louder than anything you and Cove had done. Go on, beat it! It was distinctly unfair, but Cove's lip was trembling and you thought it would be best to heed his command. Lizzie took off, with Charlotte immediately trailing after her without as much as a glance back in your direction. So much for your friendship. You waved your arm at Cove, summoning him to follow you, and ran after Lizzie. The old man's hollers propelled you all from the street to the sanctity of the hill. Only once you were safe did you notice a stitch in your chest and the ache of your legs. You flopped down, the blades of grass tickling your face. Lizzie, who had taken lead in the end, was already lazing on the ground. The four of you took a moment to catch your breath and enjoy the feeling of the cool grass against your skin.
Cove.
Hey, Cove! Cove lifted his head. I told you there were mean grandparents around here. Cove rolled his eyes and decided this wasn't dismissive enough and rolled his whole body away from your sister. Lizzie chose to ignore his response and started chatting with Shiloh, who eagerly joined in the conversation. In the back of your mind, you knew you'd be second fiddle again to Shiloh once Lizzie came around. It always went like that. And it was fine, you thought. Shiloh could prefer Lizzie as much as he wanted to. There were other things to attend to anyway. You wriggled closer to Cove. He had calmed down for the most part and was inspecting a flower. His fingers pinched the stem and tilted the white petals towards him. That's a puppy. Cove glanced at you in acknowledgement, then back to the flower. And the type of poppies on this hill have the name white linen poppy. Mum told me. He quirked a smile. That's funny. He ran a finger around the edge of the petals. It doesn't feel like cloth. You'd need a lot of them to make anything. He nodded pleased and released the delicate plant. Evaluation complete. This is my favorite kind of flower, but I didn't know what it was called. Thanks. Whoa, so many choices. Where's Iris? It's mine too. I like roses, buttercups, vinaigrette. My favorite snack. Biscuits, peas. I like sunflower. Bacon, chips, almonds. An iris, huh? Neat. Would be an iris, but thanks. You moved onto your bank. You moved onto your back with a small smile and looked at the darkening sky. The blanket of clouds reminded you of a thick throw you curled under on cold, rainy days. You wondered if the clouds would be as soft. They lazily floated on by splitting from each other, merging and morphing into new shapes. You saw a dolphin leaping through the sky. You noticed Cove and pointed it out. Look, a dolphin! Cove joined you in gazing skywards. Yeah, I see it. Really? No, but I like dolphins. Hey! He chuckled at your reaction. Oh my gosh, they're so cute! All the sun's light faded from the sky and the moon rose higher. Lizzie got to her feet, dusting strands of grass from her bare legs, and surveyed her surroundings. The ocean, visible from the crest of the hill, beckoned with every sweep of the tide. Let's go to the beach! There was no argument from the other two. Charlotte was still shy though, and Cove would never say no to going to the shore. He was a child of the sea. You wanted to go there too, so you eagerly joined the others in descending the hill down to the water. You stepped onto the sand for the second time that day, but it felt different at night. The beach was nearly quiet at this hour. Abandoned sandcastles and footsteps in the sand, too big to belong to any of you, were the only indication of how busy it had been only hours earlier. The four of you kicked shoes off and removed socks and walked along the water's edge, the waves tumbled your feet. I wonder what would happen if you tried to take a bath in the ocean with shampoo and everything. I think that would be bad for the fish.
Jeez.
I didn't say anyone would do it. Jeez, you don't have to be serious about everything. You're the one who asked what would happen. That is what would happen. It'd hurt the fish. Ugh, I like bubble baths at home. They're a lot of fun. Me too, bubble baths are luxurious. You never heard Lizzie use that word before. Mummy loves to have bubble baths in her bath. She'll turn the lights off and have candles. I'm gonna do that next time. Hey, when's your mom coming back to pick you up anyway? Not for a while, she's busy. What about your dad? How come you never talk about him? Nobody does. Don't you know you're not supposed to ask something like that? Why would somebody want to talk about something they never talk about? You kept your eyes on the ground, watching your toes get swallowed up by the waves. Even if Shiloh never seemed upset when this topic came up, it made you feel awkward just for having both of your mums. It's okay, I'm like Lizzie and Em. I don't have a dad. But I don't have two mums. I just have one, and she's really great. Oh, sorry, I only have one now too. My mum isn't
Sorry.
here. She's back home. Oh, I never had a dad or anything, so I don't feel bad. It's really sad that your mum is gone. Cove nodded. Even if they're all different, our parents are good in their own ways. Yeah. Cove couldn't muster a response. You don't think he truly disagreed, though. The silence broke with a splash as Lizzie kicked in your direction. Cold water and sodden sand splattered against your legs. Lizzie giggled. Cove joined in, striking the incoming waves to make a splash of his own. Charlotte scurried out of Cove's spray zone with a grin. You retaliated. You used your foot to smack the water pulling around you, sending an arc of sea foam flying back at your sister. She laughed and she spluttered, some of the salty sea water having landed in her mouth. She spat it out. Ugh, yuck! Lizzie chased you, intent on revenge. You dashed up and down the coast, taking it in turns to be the predator and the prey, as well as joining forces to take down Shiloh and Cove. Alliances were silently forged and wordlessly broken. Everything was fair. Everything was fair game in war. Ah! Shiloh's brief exclamation was drowned out by the biggest splash yet, caused by him falling face first onto the ground. That would have been bad enough without the wave that followed, cascading over his prone body. Shiloh sat up, shaking his head like a dog coming in from the rain, and you all hurried over to check on him. His hair was plastered to his head. His soaked clothes clung. If there was any part of him that was still dry, you couldn't see him. That was crazy, are you okay? Yeah, my foot got stuck and I fell over. Way to go, Shiloh, you dumbo. You offered him some help up. Shiloh didn't take your outstretched hand. After a moment, you dropped it. Lizzie was too busy sneaking to notice and held her hand out to Shiloh too. He reached out over and took it slowly. He started to pull himself from the ground. Then he slipped on the slick sand, dragging him and Lizzie down just in time for another wave to hit. The water rolled over them.
Sorry.
Sorry. What were the odds of that happening twice in a row? You thought they must be low, but there's no way Shiloh would do something like that on purpose, then pretend it was an accident, especially not to Lizzie. Even if your relationship with Shiloh felt unclear, he did at least like her a lot. Lizzie was his favourite, right? Smiling boldly, Lizzie extracted herself from the ground and wiped a streak of sand from her cheeks. She didn't intend to let this embarrass her. Shiloh got up again as well, this time without incident. He still looked like a drowned puppy, but that didn't stop Cove laughing at the two of them. With that, it was time to call it a day. The four of you made the journey back home, leaving a trail of wet footsteps and sand in your wake. Damp clothes may have weighed down some of the group, but your spirits were high. Your arms swung side to side as a cool breeze flowed past. Your mums were outside chatting to Cove's dad. "We're back!" Your mum's face fell as they took the side of you all were in, ranging from messy to soaked.
Now.
Elizabeth, is that all that you have to say for yourself? You brought half the beach back with you. They certainly did. What's Marigold going to do when she comes to get Shiloh? Is that how you want him to be for the long drive home, cold and filthy? Lizzie's expression turned sulky over the scolding. Being the oldest could be fun, but it also meant that she was the first to get in trouble when something went wrong. Mr. Holden, on the other hand, chuckled as he ruffled Cove's fetid hair. You've been out making memories, bucko. I'm glad you had a good time with your friends. Cove used his slightly moist cast arm to push his dad off. Mr. Holden's eyes widened when he noticed even that had gotten wet. Now he was worried too. I think they could have found a less risky way to spend time and had just as much fun. That might be right. Kids, what can you do? Come on, Cove, let's go get you cleaned up and dried off. We wouldn't want that cast to have to be reset. Cove winced at the thought. Okay, that a boy. Mr. Holden casually bent down and plucked Cove up off the ground, ultimately holding Cove against his chest. Sound was already transferring from Cove to him, but that didn't seem to bother Mr. Holden. Cove protested being carried, but only got a reassuring pat on the back from trouble.
Take care.
Good night, Cove. Thank you for the talk, Cliff. Night, Simmer family, and Shiloh too. Resigned to his fate, Cove twisted his body in his dad's arms in order to turn around and wave goodbye. Smiling, you waved back. Good night.
Fine.
Well, we'd better do what we can to fix you guys up too. Come on, everybody, inside. I want you to march straight to the downstairs bathroom. Yes, Mom. Okay, this is Mom. Don't worry about stopping to wipe your feet on the mat this time. That won't do much good tonight. Sitting on an old beach towel your mum had found, you waited in the hall until you were less sandy. You weren't allowed to go to your room or walk around the house, but you did get to eat a sandwich for dinner there. It felt like an indoor picnic. It had been decided that Shiloh would wash first and borrow some of your clothes. He was already finished and packed away in his mum's car. Miss Fields had come to collect him a little while ago. It was a bit of a funny experience seeing him without the hat for once. Lizzie, being much more soaked than you, got to go in the tub next. It wasn't a bubble bath as she had hoped. This was a no fun allowed clean-up session. At least that's what she claimed. Not much longer and it would be your turn. When the bath was done, you'd have to go right to bed. After a day like this, though, you were glad there weren't going to be any further events. Drifting off to sleep sounded like a great idea. Alright. I'll be right back.
I'll be back in a few minutes.
Alright, sorry guys, I'm back. I decided to order some Thai food. It should be here in 45 minutes or so. So, let's start this moment. We're gonna oops, I'll turn this off so we don't hear an echo. Alright, let's put the sandcastle moment on. Cove wasn't able to do many things that summer. When you, him and Charlotte sat out on the shoreline one bright morning, you could tell he wanted to be in the water. But there was no way to be swimming anytime soon, not with his cast. The waves washed a single shell to shore, glittering and blue, another reminder of places he couldn't go. Sorry, I'm just topping up my water bottle. Alright. Whoa, don't spill it. What you'd heard about Cove's old life so far, in tiny pieces and fragments, you can tell that he'd do anything to be able to get the cast off. Like make a pact with a witch or something, just to get it off his arm. You thought about how his summer last year must have been totally different from this one, with his old home and his mum and dad. But now he was here with you and Shiloh and Lizzie and everyone else, and he couldn't even go in the sea. This town wasn't bad. It had all your favourite things in it, but sitting there on the same beach you'd grown up on, you could understand that not everybody else everybody else felt the same way about Sunset Bird as you did. You watched him from the corner of your eye quietly, and he finally said aloud what you had been pondering. I wish I could go in. The water? Yeah.
Oh,
I'm sorry. You're going to be able to do it soon. Cove only sighed in response. Apparently soon wasn't soon enough. It's so pretty, the ocean. And huge. There could be anything out there. Like mermaids.
yeah.
Yeah! I wish you didn't have a cast. Me too. Obviously not interested in hearing much more of your input on the situation, Curve turned back to the water. But as he looked away, something about Shiloh's slow, careful movements caught his eye. Hey, are you building a sandcastle? Sort of. I was only playing around while we were talking. I'm listening. Maybe I could too. I've only made big piles before. It's really nothing special. I'm sure you'll be good at it right away. Well, how do you do it? Shiloh's cheeks lit up. You could tell he was a little bit uncomfortable to have Cove's expectant stare on him. I'll play too. I love making sand stuff. Okay. He put his hands back to his seashells and sand and nodded. I don't do a lot. Here's how I like to get a house started. Shiloh, focusing more intently than you'd ever seen him, guided Cove through his process. You happily used your own method. It didn't take long for the three of you to each have humble structures prepared. That's all kind of... You can do anything now, like make it bigger, add some seashells, carve a pretty pattern. I bet you'll have great ideas.
Okay.
I've got to make it bigger. Mine is going to be a real castle. Cool. This is going to be a house. Looking at the base of your sandcastle, you decide to make a mansion. The better part of the next hour was spent focusing on your own work. The boys were the same. Even Charlie didn't sneak as many peeks at everyone else as he usually did. You finished shaping before either of them did, glancing up from what you built. It seems you got done so fast because they already searched around for extra decorations. Charlotte had grabbed most of the really interesting stuff, and Cove had a lot of the shells, but there were still options. The first thing you reached for was a green piece of sea glass. It was the best fit for the mansion, you decided. It was see-through and sparkly, so you put it in a funny place where to take a second look to see it. Pleased with your result, you finally took a proper look around that wasn't focused on the sand itself. Both Cove and Shiloh seemed super immersed. You knew you could probably sneak a peek at either one's work. You checked out Cove's castle. The castle Cove had built looked surprisingly tidy, especially for someone in the cast. He must have worked really hard. Oops, what did I do? It wasn't even finished digging a huge gaping moat in front, but it was already enormous. You got the sense from the enthusiasm he was digging with that the doctor was probably going to find a bunch of sand when he finally removed the pink plaster. The silence was then broken. What's on the top of yours, Shiloh? You peeked closer and discovered something shiny sticking out of Shiloh's sand chimney. Oh, it's just a gum wrapper. It looks like smoke. It's good. That's smart. You should be an architect. You'd be good at it, Shiloh. Shiloh smiled without a word, and that was that for the current topic. Can I see what you did? Sure. He scooted just a bit nearer and began surveying your work. All you really knew about mansions was that they were supposed to be big, so you'd gone really big. It was the size of the country club that Lizzie played golf at compared to Cove and Charlotte's building, probably even bigger. Charlotte quickly decided to jump in the new conversation. Hey Em, what did you do? This is my mansion. Cove scowled for a moment. Apparently the anger was actually still there after his argument with Lizzie more than a week ago. It looks great. Your house is so big. Thanks. You're welcome. I don't think that's the same as a house. Huh? Is being in a house bad?
No.
No, but we each made our own place. Nobody is the same. I think we are. Cove raised an eyebrow at that. If something is the only one of that thing, that makes it special. Yeah, for sandcastles and stuff. People too. My dad always says how everybody is their own man, a real individual. I don't think I'm very special. Oh, Shiloh.
Why?
Why not? Nobody else is you. Shiloh simply shook his head. I'm not different. A beat passed between the two. Cove then looked down at his own work again. Okay. He didn't seem to be bothered leaving the disagreement hanging there. Cove had other things on his mind. My dad tried to get me to make sandcastle with the first time we came to this beach. But I didn't want to. Cove trailed off again. There was another moment of silence. Shiloh shifted and opened the mouth to say something, but Cove spoke up before he could. You didn't think he'd notice that Shiloh was going to talk. Hey, do you know what happened when your mums met my dad, Em? You waited to see if Shiloh would say what he wanted to. When he didn't, you considered Cove's question. I wasn't there. They didn't tell me. I just remember what happened when I met your dad. Mr. Holden had been a weird stranger then, but he was still kind of strange. No other parent acted like him, but you knew him better at this point. Now that you had thought about it, it made a lot of sense that Cove's dad talked to him about people being unique. You were pulled from your thoughts when Cove continued. Oh well, I was there. I don't think my mum has met your dad. Yeah, I'm pretty sure she hasn't. Emma's parents and my dad met the same day I met them. I'm gonna say what happened. Shiloh frowned to himself, ducking his head. His hat cast a shadow over his face. You could still tell he was upset at not being included in Cove's choice of topic. That was kind of boring for him, though. Giving people their own turn to say the things they want is important too. He stayed silent and let Cove continue his story. Charlotte could talk about the stuff after Cove had a chance to share what he planned on. When we moved here, we didn't bring a lot of things with us, only some stuff that would fit in Dad's car. We didn't even get a moving truck. I sat in there while Dad brought it all inside. I didn't want to get out because I knew Dad would make me look around the new house, and I really didn't want to do that. His lips twisted in a frown as he recalled that. Then I saw your mums. They were in a car too and stopped at your house. I guess they were coming back from somewhere or something. My dad noticed. He waved his hand, then went over to the front of your house where he started talking to them. I don't know what they said. I couldn't hear it, but he couldn't see me anymore since he was looking the other way. So I opened the car door and left. I wanted to get away and went behind the houses. I found those hills there, the ones where we met for the first time. Oh, why did I do that again? Again! Cove nodded, then stared at you. You stared back. He didn't go on to say anything more. Aren't you going to finish your story? Cove's brow wrinkled like he didn't understand why you were surprised.
Huh?
That's all that happened. Thanks for telling me. You're welcome. Even if not much happened, you weren't gonna complain about knowing the story. Shiloh's mouth twisted into a scowl of disbelief, but he said nothing. Why'd you bring that up anyway? There was a slight shrug of Cove's shoulders. I was thinking about it because of the castle. It made me remember when I moved here. Dad showed me the beach first before we went back to the car to unpack. He was really excited about it for some reason. Cove's brows furrowed a little more as he quietly raked his hand through his hair. I get it. You thought maybe Mr. Holden wasn't that excited about the beach and was instead hoping Cove might be. But the line of conversation had come to its end. Even Cove was done with it. Some other topic had popped into his head. Charlotte fidgeted uncomfortably in the sand and had made Cove aware of his presence again. They looked at each other and could only wonder what this might be about. Hey Shiloh, yeah? Why are you always turning so red, even when nothing is happening? Really startled, he jerked back. Neither you or Shiloh had expected that to be how he got included in the conversation again. I don't know, I guess. Okay, it's kind of weird. Shiloh's eyes were wide with embarrassment and his lip twitched, and he was blushing even harder than before. Maybe it wasn't only this. Perhaps it was simply the last straw, but it was a big deal to Shiloh, a huge deal. He didn't just look sad, he seemed almost panicked. You weren't sure if he was about to cry or run away or what, but you soon got an answer. Why do you wear glasses? Most kids don't wear glasses, and nobody is named Cove.
Who asked you to come?
Who asked you to come? It was probably just your dad bugging Em's family some more because you don't have anyone else who'll ever play with you. Cove blinked. The tension on the beach was suddenly uncomfortable in a way you didn't know how to laugh off. It didn't seem like the kind of thing he'd get upset about, though you hadn't ever known what kind of thing would bother Shiloh. I'm sorry. Oh, pardon me. I mean, sorry, got distracted. I'm sorry. Me too. I was just wondering. You want to keep building sandcastles? Yeah, okay. Clove glanced at Charlotte, whose smile hadn't returned to full power, then at you. Alright, what a relief. You were glad it was settled. You went back to making more sand buildings, but the whole mood had changed. Charlotte's cheeriness was clearly gone, and Cove looked as confused as ever about why the other boy had blown up. The air stayed uncomfortable the rest of the afternoon, right up to the moment that Charlotte's mum appeared at the beach to take him home. At least you tried to do something to resolve it though, and it seemed like it had helped. Even though Charlotte's smile when he said goodbye to Cove wavered, it stayed as bright as ever for you. That had to count for something. But with Charlotte gone and the sun going down, you knew it was time for you and Cove to head to your own houses. The two of you trailed out of the park together toward the neighborhood. The walk home was quiet. You passed by familiar landmarks, shoes thumping against the sidewalk in near perfect unison. Cove was clearly caught up thinking about something. You asked Cove what he's thinking. Something was definitely up, so you chose to reach out to him and ask, Hey Cove, is everything okay? You're making a funny face. Oh, I was just wondering. Cove fell silent again for a few moments. A few more seconds and sighed. Why did Shiloh act like that when I said he was all red a lot? He gets embarrassed. Embarrassed, but I didn't say anything that bad. It might have upset him anyway. I guess I can get it. Why he would do that. Sometimes I get really mad too. Despite seemingly coming to a conclusion, Cove's mood was still sour. Hey was Shiloh telling the truth? Huh? His gaze left yours as he dug the sole of his shoe into the ground. He looked oddly vulnerable for a second. Does my dad make you hang out with me? I know he talked to your mums about that a lot. An uncomfortable weight settled in your chest at the question. You liked spending time with Cove. You didn't even have to think hard about it. You knew you did. But you couldn't help feeling guilty. Cove still didn't know about what happened when he met Mr. Holden. Well, remember how you talked about how our parents met and I didn't know what happened? Yeah, I kind of had something happen that you don't know about when I met your dad. As you struggled to find the right words, Cove looked at you passively. You wanted to turn away, but you kept your eyes on his as you spoke. I was walking home and your dad was sitting in the front of the house. It must have been after you ran away. My mums weren't there either. I think they were looking for you. Your dad saw me. He got up and came over. Mr. Holden told me that he just moved into the house next to mine. Cove was still listening, his expression as plain as before. He paused for a moment, wondering if you should really keep going. You told the full story. Even if it was supposed to be a secret, you thought Cove should still know. Your dad thought that you might be lonely here, so he wanted me to be your friend. He said he'd give me $20 if I did. Cove was so still. You thought he hadn't heard you. Then his eyes widened, his mouth fell open, but no sound left him. Silence stretched between you, so tense that it was almost tangible. You shifted from one foot to the other, your hands tensed up. Please say something. Instead of speaking, he closed his mouth. His eyebrows bent, crinkling his forehead, looked more sad than surprised now. He was going to cry. He was certain of it. I didn't take it. The money. I didn't want it. Honest. Cove raised his hands and brought them up to under his glasses. His fingers pressed over his eyes, hiding them from your sight. Then, right in the middle of the street, tears began to fall. His shoulders shook with the force of his sobs. You could glimpse wetness through the cracks of his fingers, slipping down his cheeks. Cove, it's okay.
touched his shoulder. Awkwardly, you reached over and rested your hand on his shoulder, but Cove shook his body from side to side, rejecting your presence.
No!
Go away! You flinched at the shout. As you stood there listening to him cry, you felt concerned for him. You didn't want Cove to be this upset. You just wanted to be honest. Cove continued to weep with his face covered by his hands. Worse, his voice raised in volume. You were frozen in place. The situation was awful and you kept feeling worse every second. I'm so sorry, Cove. You spoke earnestly. It was all you could do, and it wasn't enough. You heard a door opening and you flinched, expecting to see one of the mean old grandparents preparing themselves to yell at you. At this hour, most people weren't around either, because they were working or down in the town, but the grandparents rarely left the house, except to complain at children making noise in the street. You didn't want Cove to have to deal with that right now. You tried to come up with something you could do for him, for the situation, for anything. But the door that stood open now didn't belong to the grandparents. To your utter surprise and relief, it was Cove's own. His dad was already home. As he peeked out his door, Mr. Holden momentarily looked unsure. Perhaps he had suspicions on the noise outside, but wasn't entirely positive. Though a kid crying is pretty distinct, and there aren't a lot of kids. Maybe he didn't want to believe something might be wrong with his son. His face fell as he spotted the source of the commotion. It was pain, and it was scared, and it reminded you of the one he'd won the first night you met Cove. Mr. Holden didn't go down the steps in front of his house. He just jumped right over them and stumbled into a run. He skidded to a stop before Cove bent on one knee and then suddenly cupped Cove's teary face with his hands.
What's wrong?
What's wrong? Are you hurt anywhere? Cove continued to cry, unable or unwilling to cough out an explanation. Not taking his hands from Cove, Mr. Holden turned to you for explanation, his eyes wide and imploring. He was asking if you made me hang out with him. You did, so I told Cove how you wanted to give me money to be his friend. As you spoke, Mr. Holden's chest rose while he inhaled deeply, his shaky breath culminating in a gasp at your final words. Why would you... He clamped his mouth shut, shaking his head. His face is crying son again. No, it's my fault. I shouldn't have done something like that in the first place. He cast his eyes down, sighing. When he next spoke, it wasn't part of the conversation anymore. It was barely loud enough for you to catch his words. M's only a kid. Tears were still streaming down Cove's face. Smiling sadly, Mr. Holden wiped Cove's cheeks with his thumb and he furrowed his brows and looked at the ground. When he next glanced up, his mouth was set with determination. Mr. Holden finally took his hands off Cove. He reached for his wallet confused. He stared at the little rectangle that all adults seemed to carry in some form. It had been the source of all these problems. You were sure that Cove wouldn't want to be reminded of that right now. It was clearly off a different mind to you. He inexplicably retrieved another $20, rolled it up, and raised it to Cove's face. Cove's eyes were hidden behind tightly clamped fingers, so Mr. Holden poked Cove's nose with the bill. Cove peeked between his fingers and grunted as he saw what he had been prodded with. Even if it was surrounded by sobs, you were glad that something else had finally left Cove's mouth.
Come on.
Hey Cove, can you stop crying? I'll give you this cash if you do. Cove dropped his hands from his face. It had already been red and wet with tears, but now his features were scrunched up in a scowl. Not for the first time he questioned Mr. Holden's tactics. He had to use two hands, but Cove firmly shoved his dad's own hand away. But Mr. Holden just chuckled at Cove's reaction and tossed the money aside. It unfurled as it flew through the air, rising before slowly drifting to the ground. Mr. Holden took Cove's outstretched wrists and lowered them to Cove's sides, stopping him from hiding his face again. Cove's dad clearly wasn't going to let it go. Laughing, Cove turned his whole head away, tears continuing to roll down his cheeks as he glowered at the ground. You can buy a lot of cool things with that, but it can't do everything, can it? Cove didn't respond, not even looking at his father. Mr. Holden continued. Your old dad likes to make things nice for you with the money he earns, but you're smart. You know that I haven't really done anything.
I'm sorry.
I still made you sad and upset just like right now. I'm sorry. Cove sniffed, the harsh line of his brow mellowing. Mr. Holden squeezed Cove's hands as he continued. Em is smart too, right? Mr. Holden spoke in a soft, encouraging tone, and Cove continued to climb. You have nothing to worry about, except for me. Mr. Holden chuckled. Cove pressed his lips together, mulling over his father's words, though the stream of tears had eased. Drops still budded in his eyes and threatened to spill out. I love you, son, so much, more than anybody else. Sometimes that makes me a little too hasty to see you happy, and I make it all worse. I really am sorry. Scrunching his eyes tight, Cove nodded. When his eyes opened again, they were red and glossy, but there were no tears left on the precipice of his lower lashes. Aside from the occasional sniff, he was mostly back to his usual self. He swallowed. Okay. Though Cove had refused to echo Mr. Holden's exact words, the sentiments seemed to be enough for his dad. He moved his hands up under Cove's armpits and hoisted Cove high into the air with a grin. Cove's hands flew to his glasses, holding them back from falling off. Cove's lips were shut tight, all betrayed by the telltale smile in his eyes that he was trying hard to hide. Mr. Holden laughed, lowering Cove so that he was securely pinned against his chest. Cove looked away, face angled to the ground. Now that his dad could no longer see him, he was allowing himself to smile. Mr. Holden might have missed it, but you didn't. Cove wriggled, pushing a hand against his dad's shoulders. Can I go back down now? Yeah. Mr. Holden set Cove gently on the ground, waiting until his feet found their footing before releasing him entirely. I have to do something. Wait here. As Cave wandered away, Mr. Holden's gaze stuck to him like glue. You sighed, eyes downcast. You felt weird that you'd only been able to stand there while the event unfolded. You weren't able to fix it. I couldn't make him feel better. Don't worry about it, please. We don't need another tragedy today. He winked, and you weren't impressed. Hey, I mean that. The first part anyway. There's only so much you can do to try and fix someone else's mistake. He smiled sincerely at him. You've done plenty for Cove. Just the fact that you were honest with him when his own dad was and proves it.
That's a relief.
Thanks for being such a good kid. I hope you'll keep spending time with the boy. As though the sound of his name summoned him, Cove returned, clutching the bill his dad had cast aside earlier. You cocked your head and Cove's dad raised his eyebrow. Cove looked as if it were moved and walked over and held it out to you. I stopped crying, but I don't want this. You can have it. He gave you a small smile. Behind him, Mr. Holden was still watching Cove closely, clearly relieved. You shared the feeling. Cove was making peace with the deal that happened behind his back. You decided not to take it. Shaking your head, you pushed the note back to Cove. I don't need it, but I don't want it. You were at a stalemate. Mr. Holden hummed thoughtfully, tapping his head. He gazed up at the wide sky as he pretended to give the conundrum serious consideration. I know. He plucked the bill from Cove and tore it right in two. And you and Cove gasped in unison. Dad, we can't do anything with it now. True, it won't work at the store like this, but now you can split it. Crouching down, he held out the pieces to you and Cove. You both looked at the two halves. Neither of you reached for them. It still has value as a keepsake, a memory, and that's one of the most valuable things you can use money on.
So,
That sounds pretty good, huh? Maybe I'm getting smarter. Wordlessly, Cove stretched out a hand and took his half. You took yours, running a finger along the jagged edge of the bill. It was cool to think that no other node would share this exact same feature, the precise peaks and the rows of the tear, except for Cove's, which would bear them in reverse. It did feel like there was value left. Mr. Holden stood up, stretching his arms out casually. Well then, it's about time for dinner. Me and the rugrat need to be going in. You probably should too. I bet your mums want to see you. Alright,
Bye.
bye.
thanks very much.
Have a good night, and thanks, Sam. Father and son waved at you as you turned and dashed back home. The note clenched tightly in your hand. felt lighter. Oh! Jeepers. Had Apon. Hold on. Quick. I think it's a long time since I actually posted a PokeCatch. Oh no! Too slow. Oh well. Fireflies.
All right.
My food should be here in about 15 minutes. Pardon me. Alright, tonight we're going to catch fireflies. At this blunt declaration from your sister, you looked up from your macaroni and cheese dinner. Fireflies were a familiar sight over summer, coming out on warm nights to dance through the sky. Tonight was particularly balmy. You knew there were bound to be a ton of them around. Oh, you are you? Yeah! You rocked slightly from side to side in your seat, already excited for your after-dinner activity. Catching fireflies was a great way to spend a summer evening, and you could already envision the little lightning bugs drifting through the darkened sky. That's a good idea, Lizzie. Can we, Mrs. Simmer? Shiloh tapped his fork against the table suddenly, his face lighting up as he looked at Lizzie. It was unusual for Shiloh to still be here. Like always, his mom had to bring him over really early in the morning before her job started. But normally she would have picked him up by now. She called before dinner to let your mum know she'd be late. You didn't hear why, probably more work things. You thought maybe getting to hang out with Shiloh for longer is what made Lizzie want to keep running around outside. Staying at home and watching TV was never an option for her with guests over. That's why you were pretty sure she'd get your mum set free. Well, it's already so dark out there. Lizzie gave Mum the best puppy dog eyes she could, slowly spooning mac and cheese into her mouth while you waited there for their response.
There.
Let them go. Nights like this don't happen every day. Your parents exchanged a look. Then Mum eventually sighed and nodded back. Yes! Along with Lizzie's tears, you threw your arms up in triumph, but waited until you'd finished chewing to say anything because you knew it was rude to talk with your mouth. Fine. Just make sure you stay on the hill behind your house with all the puppies, okay? Duh, Mom. That's where most of them are. The idea had only just been planted in your head, but already you could just picture all the glowing lights spread out in front of you like fairies from the bedtime stories Mummy read sometimes. All too quickly, it became a race to see who could finish their food first. No choking at the dinner table now. That's right. If someone died, we'd have to cancel the Firefly trip after all. Mum said it like a joke, but you knew that they were both telling you kids to slow down. Charlotte did immediately. When you glanced at Lizzie, you saw her still eating faster than she should be. Elizabeth?
Jeez.
No one is gonna die. Sheesh. A knock on the door interrupted Mum before she could no doubt scold your sister. I'll get it. Your big sister jumped out of her seat and ran over to the door, pulling it open without even looking out the window to see who it was. Huh? You shifted in your seat to try and get a glimpse of the unexpected guest.
Hi.
Good evening, Cove. Your mummy had already walked to the door by the time you managed to see past Shiloh's fat cat. Oh, Cove, you're here. Hi! There are a million things you thought of that you wanted to tell him about. Lizzie's homer in the baseball game earlier in the day, your first successful cartwheel, but most importantly, you wanted to ask if you'd come firefly catching. You saw him direct a smile at you and returned it with an eager wave. Then, for a few seconds, Cove said nothing. He only stood there and looked up at the mummy with the face, almost like he was considering turning around and leaving. My dad told me to drop this off, because I guess he borrowed it from you. Cove took a familiar screwdriver from out of his large side pocket. Eyes now dropped to the floor. We left ours back home when we moved. Great, thanks, bye!
Thank you.
Thank you. Here, why don't you come inside for a bit? Lizzie crossed her arms, lifted her chin. Cove shrugged, and Mum stood from the table too. I'll give your dad a call to let him know you got here all right. Cove shuffled fully inside, eyes remaining on the ground. Mummy closed the door behind him.
Bye.
Hi, Cove. Shiloh gave Cove a friendly smile while waving by holding up his hand and opening and closing his fingers. Cove nodded in response. Cove, are you going to catch fireflies with us? You could see Lizzie eyeing you for a mention and turned to an outline of which she'd get over it. You crossed your fingers behind your head and looked at Cove expectantly, hoping he would say yes and you'd get to spend some time with him.
Yeah.
Yeah, that sounds cool. I've never caught one before. It's too bad he didn't have a chance before now. The fireflies weren't out when he first moved in, and there must not have been anywhere he used to live. We can't go out until after dinner. After she pointed this out, Lizzie walked back to the table and took her seat. There wasn't much left on her plate. Since this was very true, you decided to finish up your own stuff as well. Cove stepped closer and eyed what was on the menu for your family's meal. Have you eaten yet? Yeah, my dad and I ate earlier. What did you have? Eggs. The clipped one-word answer seemed to discourage Shadow from asking any more questions. His eyes slowly wandered back to the last scraps of food on his plate. Her phone call with Cove's dad must have ended because your mum came back into the room.
Okay.
Cove, your dad said you can stay for a little while if you'd like, but he's going to come and get you before it gets too much later. Sure.
Fine.
Oh, fun. This will be so nice. As you polished off the meal, you hoped it would be too. The three of you all finished eating shortly after, and Lizzie led the way outside. Remember, don't stray too far. It's fine, Shiloh trailed so closely after Lizzie, he was nearly stepping on her heels. Cove hesitated at the door. Coming? After a moment, he did.
Bye.
Bye, children. The two of you were a good 10 or 15 feet behind Lizzie and Shiloh by the time you walked outside. You pushed the door shut behind you, watching the figures get further and further away.
Hurry up!
You're so slow, Em. We don't have all night. You started to run when you heard Lizzie's voice calling you, but paused when you saw Cove still walking at a relaxed pace. You tugged him along. Come on, Cove! Don't get left behind! You reached out for the arm that wasn't in a cast. You took hold of your wrist and started to pull him along. Cove twisted his arm a bit before letting go. You smiled, watching Cove return it with a shy one up his own. Then the both of you followed after Lizzie and Shiloh. When you arrived at the hill, Lizzie was already standing on top. The fireflies were out in full force, floating on the breeze, their gentle glow winking in and out, creating an almost magical effect. Look how pretty it is. You looked at Cove, and he seemed just as entranced by the beautiful sight. You and Cove stood at the start, linked together. It was almost like holding hands, but not quite. It was a bit too bad somehow. Realizing there wasn't actually any need to continue gripping his arm, he released it.
Wow.
Shiloh took a moment to come over and welcome the both of you to the hill. Hi guys, it's really great out, huh? See how many there are? Yeah. A firefly danced around the air, landing on Cove's sea green head. You and Shiloh couldn't help but giggle. Covering your mouth with a hand, the sound escaped you when Cove looked at you in confusion. What? You gestured it to his head and you reached up, making the firefly dart away. Cove jumped, then followed after the glow.
Oh,
Oh, look, Lizzie has one. That's amazing. Shiloh ran to the highest point of the hill, making sure not to lose his hat or backpack along the way. You hummed as the group divided and conquered, shifting your gaze to a dozen of the other fireflies sailing around. Game was on. Spotting one close by. Oh, I said 2 bandages by the way, because if we're basing this loosely off me, I get scratches and bruises all over me all the time. I don't even know how I get them half the time. So I'm just clumsy, I guess. Spotting one close by, you approached it with assassin-like stealth, crouching down to make yourself seem like less of a threat. Slowly dragging one foot in front of the other, you crept up towards it, arms outstretched. You closed your hands around the little glowing orb, careful not to crush it. The firefly landed on your palm, almost docile, and you stared down at your prize in delight. Its tiny legs tickled your skin, and you giggled at the sensation. Cove kept up with his own target. But when he tried to grab it, his pink cast waved awkwardly through the air, avoiding his efforts to clap his hands around the firefly. Ah! Oh, poor Cove. Cove watched it vanish into thin air with a dissatisfied expression on his face. You encouraged him to try again. You'll get the next one. Did you catch one? You nodded, and Cove gave up his hunt for the moment, coming closer and peering at the insects still coiled across your palm. You held out your hand and leaned closer, eyes widening its head behind his glasses. Cove remained hypnotized by the little bug as he inched his hand closer to yours. Ultimately, he settled his fingers lightly over the top of the ones you were holding open. It tingled. You stayed very still. The last thing you wanted was to accidentally scare the shiny treasure off. Oh! The firefly, noticing the new connection, crawled up onto Cove's hand, and he quietly gasped. It worked! Yeah, you got one! Cove's lips turned up in a slow smile and his eyes shined brighter than the bug. Thanks, Sam. Your eyes and his locked together while still holding hands. Oh my gosh, this is adorable. He suddenly pulled away. Startled by the extreme movement, the tiny little light disappeared before you could even think. Your firefly was gone.
sorry.
Oops, sorry. You forgave him. That's okay. I couldn't keep it forever.
You're right.
Right. Bugs have to stay outside. Let's get another. You decided to collect more. Uh-huh, we can work together. His face broke out in a wide grin. We'll get a bunch. With renewed vigor, you ran out into the hill. You're not sure how much time passed while you were in the thick of it. All you could focus on was the adventure at hand. No critter was safe from your grasp. At first you tried to keep a tally of how many you had caught, but once the number grew higher than 10, you had no more fingers left to count with. You were having the time of your life, racing up and down the hill with the crash of the ocean and the sound of everyone's laughter echoing in the background. Em! This way! You followed the sound of Cove's voice to the top of the hill, watching as he stretched his arms in front of him, reaching with his fingers and only narrowly missing his target. Cove and you took turns trying to scare fireflies in the direction of the other. You showed him some techniques that you had learned, like how to cup your hands correctly and listen attentively before trying for himself. There were a few times when you almost ran into each other giggling as you dove to the side at the last moment. Luckily, disaster was avoided each time. It was an overall huge success, with both of you catching multiple fireflies each. Eventually, the fireflies began to thin out and your energy started to lapse. You decided it was time to call off the hunt. Cove didn't complain. He breathed in heavily. His face seemed really flushed. That was fun. A lot of fun. You smiled at him broadly, happy that he had enjoyed the activity. Yeah, it was.
Come on!
Am, Cove, get up here. We're gonna have a race. The shouting caught you off guard. It had been quite a while since you'd heard Lizzie or Shiloh. You glanced over to see them both standing on top of the hill again. Lizzie beckoning you with quick hand gestures. If she was like that, you knew that there wasn't much room for disagreement. Up the incline you went. From the corner of your eye, you saw Cove was coming as well. You didn't care for Lizzie a lot, so you thought he might be intrigued just by the idea of a race. Hi, said Shiloh.
Oh,
Hi, Cove. You can't roll down the hill. You could hurt your arm again. You'll be the referee for the rest of us. Oh, poor Cove. I thought that was my food, but I don't think it's even left yet. Oh, whoops, what did I do? Gosh, I'm so hungry. Come on, food. Get here soon. As Lily pointed this out, Cove froze in place. Oh, it was that kind of race. He frowned down at his cast. That was the second time it got in the way tonight. What? Yeah, you'll watch and see who gets to the bottom first. That's important. Got it? I guess. The cast was sturdy. If he was careful, he could have done it. Lizzie might have just been looking for a reason to make someone else the referee, but it was already decided. You got into position for the race. Satisfied with this, Lizzie moved to lay down, and Shiloh did the same. Cove stood slightly to the side to get a better vantage point. It seemed like he was taking his newfound referee duty seriously. Countdown! You quickly got into position as well, resting on your side in the grass and tucking your arms close to your chest. 3, 2, 1, go! The three of you took off, letting gravity do the work and rolling at high speed towards the bottom. You squeezed your eyes shut, a delighted laugh leaving you and consequently allowing a few blades of grass into your mouth. You sputtered, reaching up to wipe them away. It threw you off your balance and sent you careening sideways. Oof! Ah! Everyone started too close together because the slight turn made you, then Shiloh, and then Lizzie collide into a heap. You tumbled down the last few feet in a pile. Shiloh's elbow was in your stomach, and you were pretty sure Lizzie's hair was in your mouth, but you had survived. Perhaps it wouldn't have been safe for Cove after all. You could hear him laughing in the distance. When you opened your eyes, you saw the starry sky above, and Cove still on top of the hill, staring down at the three of you with an amused look on his face. Hey, cool crash! I think Em was the first one to at the bottom. That didn't count. We need a redo. Kids, it's time to come in! No! You sighed, not knowing if it was from contentment or exasperation, and closed your eyes again. It had gotten late and was beginning to feel just a bit chilly as you made your way out of the hills, but the cold in the air hadn't dampened anyone's spirits. The four of you walked back together, side by side down your neighborhood street, discussing the evening, with each person trying to prove that they were the one who caught the most fireflies. You knew that whoever really did catch the most didn't matter much anyway. All that mattered was that you all had a good time, which, judging by the smiles on everyone's faces, you all did. Oh, I'm so hungry. Come on, food. Oh my gosh. We finished the first step. Wow. And then summer ended. I'll never get tired of that view. You stood beside your mums, Lizzie and Cove, as the five of you watched the sun dip into the ocean somewhere far, far away. You like to imagine it cooling off in the water, resting itself before getting ready to shine brightly again tomorrow. That was a fun day. I didn't know they had magicians on the shopping street now. Neither did I. Oh no, we are so dull. Let's get out more. He didn't do real magic, Mum. How did you figure that one out? Because I know that's not what real magic looks like. Oh, Lizzie dear, there's all kinds of magic in the world. Lizzie gave Mummy a suspicious look, but didn't dispute the claim. You looked over at Cove, who hadn't said a word since you started home. He didn't look upset though, just content. You're aware he still hadn't quite warmed up to your parents. Well, we can't sit out here all day. I mean, all night. Time to hurry home and get cooking. Who's helping with dinner? Lizzie immediately let out a groan. Summer's almost over. The protest was obvious. You could practically see school on the horizon. You certainly didn't want to spend your last bits of freedom cooking dinner. You could do that any other day. Play a little bit longer. Mum looked down at you with a sigh and clasped your hands together to give you your please and extra appeal. We'll help with dinner tomorrow. You immediately nodded in agreement with the very clever offer. Shifting closer to Lizzie, since your parents can't possibly risk the power to combine. Soon we'll have homework and reading to do. We can't do work now too. Lizzie made her case and then stomped her foot into the ground. You mimicked her, feeling that would add something to the argument. Well,
No.
oh come on, Pam. I can help you with the dinner. Mummy leaned in for a hug, and then you knew that you were very close to victory.
Okay.
All right. But as soon as dinner's ready, you lot are coming inside. Understood? Yes, Mum. Yes, Mum. Cove, dear, you're welcome to join us as well. You grinned at Cove and nudged his arm with your elbow. Cove gave a non-committal shrug to your mummy, which you took as an agreement. So much to do, so little time. Maybe I could still get that seashell bracelet at Tynes and Trickets. Or maybe the playground, or the fireflies would probably be coming out, right? You silently made your own plans. Lizzie had her own ideas of what she wanted to do, but where were you going to do? You glanced over at Cove, considering. A strong gust of wind made you shiver. Lizzie huffed as she wrapped her arms around herself. Doesn't the wind know that summer's not over yet? That's all Lizzie said, before abruptly turning on a heel and heading off in the direction your mothers had gone. Where are you going? I'm going to my room. I have lots to plan if I want to make the most of tomorrow. You thought this over, looking off towards the water again. Lizzie didn't wait, and before long she disappeared off down the road. Are you going home too, Em? Cove was leaning towards the beach, and you could tell he wanted to stay out a little bit longer. You stayed with Cove. I need my food, please. Cave gave. Ugh. Hold on, I'm gonna go see if my food's come. Still not yet. I'm so hungry. Feed me. Oh well. A go-go. I think I just picked up my... I looked at chat just in time. Gave you a smile that you couldn't help but return. Ah, this gave it over.
Cool.
Cool. He made a little gesture that you interpreted as follow me, and then started heading to the waves. Cove knelt down, picking up something he quickly identified as a smooth rock. He reared his arm back and then tossed it out into the water. Impressed over how far he got it to go and say it was a good toss. That was pretty neat. It wasn't a long throw, but he didn't care to try for that. The knock sunk kind of like a rock and fell back down almost right after it. You looked for your own rock. Deciding to join Cove, you searched nearby for any rocks or shells that you could throw too. Found a shell that would suit your purposes, a smile growing as you tossed it as hard as you could. It landed with a wet-sounding thunk and a few feet away and slipped down into the water. He didn't seem to notice that his throw had been more impressive. Cove was looking down at his cast, scratching idly at the pink surface, even though you were pretty sure he couldn't feel it. His brows were furrowed, and there was a frown on his face.
It's not fair.
It's not fair. I've had to wear this cast for ages. I can't even swim. Oh, I don't know which one. I kind of want to know that, but I also want to know both. When do you get it off? Cove shrugged and didn't say anything. For a second he thought maybe he didn't know, but finally decided. A few weeks. It is a while away. You hoped the upcoming weeks survived Clove. It was clear how badly he wanted it off. Clove let out a huff, plopping down into the sand. I can't believe summer's almost over. You sat down next to him and nodded in agreement, regardless of the sudden topic change. I don't want to go to school. I mean, I would. I don't want to go to a new school. I think it'll be the same school as you and Lizzie. My dad said something about that. Well, that's great. We can sit together during lunch. You'd only ever been to the one school, but you were sure that his old school couldn't have been that much better. Then again, he did have to make new friends and meet new teachers. It could be kind of scary. Hold on, guys. I'm gonna call the restaurant. Hold on. Alright, so it's cooked, but it's not on its way yet. My only issue is I'm not going to be able to see when they're on the way because it says that it's been delivered. Oh well. Anyway. Then again, he did have to make new friends and meet new teachers. It could be kind of scary. Cove shook his head, then wrapped his good arm around his knees as he drew them to his chest. You heard a sniffling sound, and when you took a look at his face, you realized his eyes were wet.
I want to go home.
I want to go home. The sudden sadness caught you off guard. You were so excited that Cove would be going to your school. It made you feel bad that he was so upset about it. Well, I can walk back with you. Cove shook his head at the offer. No, I want to go back home. Right, Cove wanted to go back to his old home, the one that sat waiting someplace far from here, the one he would bring up whenever he felt this sad. It had been a while since he had moved in, but he didn't seem to feel any better about being here. You settled back down into the sand, trying to consider what to do. Do you hate it here? Cove's brow furrowed even more. Then he shook his head. You felt a rush of relief fill you. You liked having Cove here. It would be sad if he'd been miserable the whole time. You're not going to leave, right? You'll still be around. The question was a little surprising. Of course. Your parents would have mentioned if you were going to move or something, right? Your parents would have mentioned it if you don't. Oh, yeah. After a second, Cove got a little nod. Once I get my cast off, we could go swimming. You were fine with him changing the subject again. Yeah, that would be fun. Cove smiled and looked back to the waves. My dad keeps saying I'll get used to everything eventually, that I'd feel better then. It used to make me angry. I didn't want to get used to everything. You spared a glance over at Cove and saw the anger had slipped off his face in favor of something almost puzzled. But maybe that would be okay after all, as long as I really do feel better. I can't see it. You could remember a long time ago when you first started going to school. You had absolutely not been okay with the idea of being away from your parents for most of the day, to listen to strangers tell you what to do, and sit with kids you never met before. Things changing is hard. You held his hand. You're not quite sure what to say to that, so instead you reach out and take hold of Cove's hand. The one closest to you is the one in his car, so you make sure you are very gentle. As you watch, Cove's eyes got a little misty once more. You got the feeling that they were different tears than the ones from before though. I hope next summer I'll surf and go exploring and everything will feel like it's supposed to again. You will. It will. The two of you sat quietly, just taking in the sounds of the waves. You hoped that Cove would be able to accept this place as his new home. You definitely try and help in what ways you could. There were so many wonderful things here Cove probably hadn't even seen yet. Lost in thought, you started a bit when you heard a faint, familiar sound, the sound of your mum shouting your name. You looked over your shoulder, realizing it was probably time for dinner. You were reluctant to move, having enjoyed sitting together, but you were hungry. You stood and dusted the sand off yourself. My mum's calling, it's time for dinner. You should come. Cove looked up to you, expression screaming reluctance, yet ultimately, okay. And when you smiled, Cove returned with one of his own. Thanks.
Thanks.
It was nice. It was nice where you were, but the two of you couldn't stay there in your own world. You were being pulled forward. So the both of you ran off towards your house, leaving the waves and the sunlight so sweet. I think I'm gonna leave everything as is. How come I don't have shirts taped? I've just been walking around in pants the whole time. Ooh, braces. Oh, yes, let's do it. It still likes the hot ones. Oh, acne too. Yeah, gotta do that. I'm gonna do Rexed again. Oh, so I can't do love. I have to do crush. Relaxed crush. Oh wait, I didn't want to change anything. Oh. What did I do? No. How do I go back? I can't remember the last time I saved, so. Oh well. It's done now. Sorry. Still waiting on my food. I'm so hungry. Alright, well, it's on its way now. Where is it? I swear I got a message saying it's on its way, but I can't. Aha. A few more minutes. Okay. August ended, September began. It was time to go back to school. Lizzie groaned and complained the entire first week. Oh, food. I'll be right back. Lizzie groaned and complained the entire first week. She hated going to classes. Still, there were interesting things to do that couldn't be done anywhere else. We weren't sure how Cove felt about it. He was enrolled that year. That was like a sign that Cove would be staying in Sunset Bird for a while. At school he was alright, but kept his distance from the other kids. From what you saw anyway. Whenever he could, Cove stuck to you like glue. He didn't even mind that much what you did to pass the time as long as it was together. And that was just fine. You felt for him the same way you always had. Nothing changed. Except, as you got older, you were able to understand better exactly what those feelings had, and still meant. That year, the divorce of Cove's parents was finalized. You overheard your parents talking about it, saying Cove's dad got full custody. At first, you were worried that meant bad news. It had made Mr. Holden cry, apparently. Then you found out it meant that Cove would keep living with his dad. He would only stay with his mum a few weeks a year. Cove cried too. For different reasons, you thought. It seemed like Cove and his dad might move again, but Mr. Holden decided to stay after all. Mum asked him about it once, and he had said that he didn't want to uproot Cove's life a second time. Mr. Holden tried to get Cove to like Sunset Bird more. He kept encouraging some to go out and see the place. Sometimes Mr. Holden volunteered you to spend time with Cove. He seemed very confident that it was an effective strategy. Cove never talked to anyone about what happened with his parents, and withdrew whenever it was brought up. It was hard for him, yet nobody knew how to help. Eventually Cove stopped crying on his own. You couldn't understand what had happened, what had changed, but you hoped that you could help him feel better still, since even without the tears, he looked sad. Maybe one day you could say out loud what he felt inside. After that, it felt like things had gone back to normal, except what was normal didn't stay the same. Years passed, and suddenly you were in middle school. You weren't a kid anymore. You were 13 years old. That officially made you a teen, even if your sister didn't agree. The toys and the crayons that used to litter every free space in your room had been packed away somewhere, replaced by new hobbies. And there were other changes too. Cove's cast got taken off. It was weird to see him without it initially. Underneath the pink plaster ended up being a long, thin scar that snaked across his forearm. Cove's chest puffed out in pride when someone drew attention to it. He also went through a major growth spurt. He was the tallest student in his class for 2 years in a row. Cove will probably hold that spot again next time. In class, people knew him for more than just being tall. He also stood out because of how well he did on tests and in other academic situations. Over the years, he began opening up more too. You saw him talking amicably with other kids or neighbours from time to time. And the only kids that came to visit the neighbourhood when you were little, Shiloh, well, he was gone. He and his mum moved back south because of her work, just 1 year after Cove came to Sunset Bird. It had been really upsetting when he left. Lizzie was inconsolable for weeks, but nobody talked about Shiloh anymore. It was a long time ago. You learned some heartbreaking things became less sad the further away they were, even if they had never gotten any better. That was sad in its own way. Things at home were different too. You still lived in the same house and all that, but it wasn't how it was before. Ma dyed her hair purple, wanting something new, and liked it so much she kept dyeing it. You remember calling her mummy as a kid, but something like that seemed awkward nowadays. You were much too old for that word. Lizzie felt too mature for a nickname too, and she insisted on everyone calling her Elizabeth, so you did. Your mum soon gave her permission to go places other than the playground and shopping street, which she took advantage of. You rarely saw her around the old neighbourhood. In fact, she hardly spent time with you the way she did before. Elizabeth instead associated more and more with the girls from school who were her own age. Maybe the difference between 13 and 15 was greater than the difference between 8 and 10. You
started befriending new people yourself, like Derek Suarez. He didn't live in the neighborhood or go to the same school. What happened was his and Cope's dad struck up a business partnership a few months ago. Since then, Derek would pop up in the area now and then. It seemed Mr. Suarez was happy to let Derek tag along to his work, if Derek had the time for it. Without a doubt, everyone and everything around you had changed, in small and big ways. You had too. As time went by though, it was easy to settle into this new normal. Then, before you knew it, school was over and summer vacation had come again. Alright, I'm gonna save here. And I'm gonna go and eat my dinner, and I will be back once I've eaten, okay guys? Alright. Alright. I'll be back after I've had my dinner, guys. See you soon.